The meeting of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee is now in session. It is Wednesday, June 13th, 2018. We're at the Shepherd Hill Regional High School. It is 7:02, and we will all stand for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I would like to welcome Kathy Comaneci to our newly elected member to our school committee. And first order of business, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Wednesday, May 23rd.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? And one abstain.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll entertain okay.
Oh, that's all right.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the executive session on Wednesday, May 23rd.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? And one abstention, Kathy. First order of business is reorganization of the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee, and I will turn it over to Greg.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So it's that time of year where we have to reorganize the committee with the Dudley election having been completed this past Monday. Before I do that, I want to say thank you to all those who are here tonight. We really appreciate you coming out to see us because we don't usually get a crowd like this. Is there something else going on, or what is it? Mrs. Antossi and I are trying to figure it out, but it's nice to have people in here. We sometimes get lonesome. So again, with the Dudley election complete, it's time to reorganize the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee. As the committee is aware, you must first vote a chair and vice chair, and then additionally, you must vote to fill the following positions, which I'll describe later on: secretary, treasurer, assistant treasurer, borrowing authorization, and representative to the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative. Once that task is complete, I would recommend that the committee, in view of policy BDE, may want to consider making appointments to the subcommittees tonight, and when we get to that point, I will give my recommendation for which subcommittees may be helpful in the coming year. So with that, right now, I will, give me just a second, I will entertain nominations for the position of chair.
I'd like to nominate Pauline O'Coin for chair. Second.
Any other nominations? All those in favor of Pauline O'Coin for chair? And as Mrs. O'Coin would say, the motion carries, it's unanimous. Can I use the gavel, please? I'm just kidding. Congratulations, Mrs. O'Coin.
Thank you once again for your confidence in me. Thank you. And you're doing such a good job.
Well, do you want to take nominations for vice chair, or
You
shall
can
I?
do it.
Okay, I will entertain nominations for vice chair at this time.
And I'd like to nominate Mary Antossi.
Second.
Okay, we have a nomination and a second for Mary Antossi. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Mary. You want to come up to the head table? You don't have
Not
to.
yet.
You don't have to.
You
All
want me to
right.
take over, or you're going to keep going?
No, at this point, I think it would be fair for you to take over.
Okay. So the next one would be secretary, and I'll just tell you who the committee usually elects, and that will be our interim superintendent. And if there's
I'll
any...
nominate the next superintendent, the secretary.
Okay, and we don't really need seconds on the nomination. So if someone wanted to do it, they can. So any other nominations? Okay, all in favor? Motion not a motion, but the nomination carries, and it's unanimous. Treasurer. Usually the treasurer is Melinda Ernst-Funya, and that's our treasurer. Do I have any nominations for treasurer?
I'll nominate Melinda.
Okay. Any others? Okay. All in favor? Melinda has it. Assistant treasurer. Again, the committee elects the interim superintendent to serve as the assistant treasurer, but if you have someone else in mind, that's fine. But usually it's the interim superintendent. So do I have a nomination?
I nominate the interim superintendent.
Okay, any other nominations? Okay, all in favor? And we have the interim superintendent as assistant treasurer. Now, the borrowing authorization will be a vote, it'll be a motion, and a vote is necessary to address any short-term borrowing needs. So the school committee will vote to authorize the district treasurer to borrow from time to time in anticipation of revenue of the financial year beginning July 1st, 2018, ending July 30th, 2019, in accordance with the provisions of the Massachusetts general laws, and to issue a note or notes, therefore payable within 1 year, and to renew any notes or notes as may be given for a period of less than a year. So I will entertain a motion for that authorization.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Discussion. No discussion, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. This will be a nomination. The representative for the Southern Worcester County Educational Collaborative, and it is the interim superintendent to serve in this capacity. Mr. Destro served. And so do I have a nomination for the rep?
The interim superintendent, I nominate the interim superintendent.
Okay, any other nominations? All in favor? Okay. Subcommittees, and we might as well do the subcommittees again. We do have the Budget and Finance Subcommittee, and we have, what, three on? Three. And so, if we'd like to change, we have Katherine and Elaine and Stephanie, or they can stay the same, but it's up to you people who would like to serve on the budgets, or do you want the same? Anybody?
I'll stay unless someone else wants to. Anyone else? Anyone else?
No.
You're very good at numbers.
Yes.
I'm very happy to say that that's the perfect spot.
Okay,
Thank you very
so,
much.
so we'll have Elaine and Stephanie and Katherine, okay?
Re-elected,
Appointed.
reappointed.
Reappointed. And the Benefits Subcommittee, that is Kathy, Wage and Benefit, that's Kathy and I. We've been on it for years, but if anyone else would like to be on it, tell me.
I think that we have some other committees coming up, so not to spread everybody too thin.
Okay, so Kathy, it's
Sure.
you and
And Mrs. O'Coin, if I may, in addition to what was written in your package, I think it would be wisdom if the committee were to get it out of the way to appoint a subcommittee to negotiate with the DCTA, which we will very likely be going into next year. And since that was Mr. Petrozak and Mr. Chalk for the past several years, we're going to need at least two, maybe three, at the discretion of the committee, new people. And also, the policy subcommittee was tabled last year in lieu of the fact that we were really busy with the override campaign, and there may be wisdom also in putting together the policy subcommittee again.
Oh,
That was
okay.
brought up at the budget meeting today.
So we'll take the policy first. Now, we had members of the policy. It was Elaine, right? And it was Kathy. Does anyone want to be on the policy committee?
I would do it.
You'll do it? Okay. Mary and Elaine will do it?
Yep.
And
Sure.
do you want three or two?
Two's enough.
Two's enough?
Two's enough.
Do you mind, Kathy? I'll have Elaine and Mary
Oh,
want
Mary
to
wants
do it.
Oh, go ahead, sure.
Yeah.
Unless
Couldn't
you
get rid of
just
that
You're,
fast.
we're on the wage and
That's
benefits.
fine. I thought it
you're
was
on.
only Elaine. I was-
No, no,
Okay,
it's
that's
Elaine
fine.
and Mary
That's
said
fine.
she wanted to. That's fine?
Sure.
Okay. And Jamie, you weren't interested in that.
No, I was thinking the other one that you said.
Negotiations, are you interested in that?
I don't know who's already sat on it.
Well, it was Joe and it was, right.
No
here
further.
unless
I've done it, Pauline and I've done it before.
And I
None of
can't
us
be
have
on it,
sat
but
on
I've
that,
done it in the
but-
past years ago and Kathy's been on it. So we know the ropes, but I'm out. Who,
I don't mind doing it, but do you need someone who has also done it in the past?
well,
To give some
we'll
context.
just try it out.
Okay.
Who's interested first? I'll see how many are interested. Anybody?
I don't mind doing
Okay, Kathy doesn't mind doing
Jamie
it, but
too,
we'd like to
okay.
have it. Jamie too? Fine. Who else? Anybody else? We'll give it a
We
try.
should have- I don't know if you should have 3.
We've always had 2. You could have as many as 3.
Yeah. Well, we'll try it with these
Well-
two. I think they're
Except they were both
capable.
new.
I think it bears to have someone with experience on the committee, not just
No
because.
offense.
I think probably Jamie's had experience in her own.
It may work, of
Work.
course, but it.
You know.
But
in
not
this
with the
capacity.
district, yeah.
Right. Well, who would like to be? Who else? Catherine? Yes, I think Catherine.
Oh, yeah, you saw my hand go up, sure.
Okay. We have a good committee. Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Cabral is a big baseball fan. She's like Brock Holt. Play any
That's
position.
fine, I can cover all the infield.
She's also very good at math.
You are too, though, I bet it's successor.
Yeah, thank you. I forgot, I didn't think you wanted it, but
Well, I did.
that's good. No, but that's good.
Did I say I wanted
She
it?
didn't really-
Any others? That's it for now.
Don't
We'll-
put words in my mouth, Mrs. O'Coin.
If any other subcommittees come up, then we'll appoint during the year, okay?
Absolutely.
So that concludes the reorganization and citizens forum. Anyone this evening that would like to come to address the school committee? Okay, and that brings us to school spotlight, Heritage School, Mrs. Pastore.
So I have brought with me this evening one of our fourth grade teachers, Mrs. McCarthy, and 8 outstanding fourth grade students from a group of about 175, which each project was just unique, for each of the children. This process takes really about 2 months. So the first thing is they select a biography. They have to research the biography, they prepare their poster board, they learn about and become the character that they have chosen. And this leads up to the Heritage School Wax Museum. So in our gymnasium, 2 classes at a time take turns pretending as if we were indeed a wax museum. And they are standing perfectly still, and parents come along, and the statues only come to life when you press their buttons, and then they have a 2-minute speech that they all memorized, and they come to life, and then they go back to wax, and you go on their way. So this is about the 4th year that we've done this. Every year, the list of characters and biographies increases tangentially each year, and the costumes, as you can see, keep getting better and better. So I'm going to introduce them one by one. I will not tell you who they are. They are going to do that themselves. And I will start with Sarah Miller. Sarah, you go ahead to that spot.
Hello, my name is Lucille Desiree Ball. I was born in Jamestown, New York, in August 6, 1911. Although I prefer Lucille, my family called me Lucy. My father worked for Bell Telephone, but died when I was 3 of cash flow fever. My mom was pregnant with my brother Fred Ball. By the time I was 10, I took odd jobs. As a teenager, I was the first girl to cut my hair short and was a flapper. I wanted to be a star, but not sing or dance. At age 15, I went to acting school in New York. They sent me home and said I would never be an actress. I am famous because I am funny. I started out as a model, then moved to Hollywood to become a movie star. At age 29, I still could not sing or dance. I could make people laugh. I was cast in the movie with 23-year-old Debbie Arnaz. It was out for a sight where I'm married to an actor. I was on a radio show about a housewife. CBS wanted a TV with the same idea. I Love Lucy was created, a comedy with Debbie playing my on-screen husband. This made me famous. Some of my contributions are on my work in comedy paved the way for future stars like Mary Tyler Moore, Penny Marshall, and Robin Williams. I insisted on casting Desi as my on-screen husband being one of the first interracial couples. I was the first woman to run a major television production company. I appeared on the first ever cover of TV Guide. I faced a lot of challenges. For example, my dad died when I was 3. I wanted to be a star but could not sing or dance. The Great Depression affected me as I cut jobs and I lost my job. It took me many years before I became famous. A couple things you might find interesting are, my hair was blonde, I changed it to red and got more attention. In 1952, I was the highest rated show on TV. While everybody was watching my show, they waited to use the bathroom so all toilets flushed at once. Desi and I had 2 children, Lucy and Ricky. When I was pregnant, my character on TV was pregnant too. This was the first time pregnancy was on TV. More people watched the episode of Little Ricky's birth than President Eisenhower's inauguration. On April 26, 1989, I died of a heart attack. I was 77 years old. In my later years, I ran a major TV production studio. When I died, the world mourned the Queen of Comedy.
Guys, when you speak, right, I'm gonna move this over, and then just kind of stand like where she was, but facing this way so you can see, and then the microphone will pick you up a little bit better, okay? Great job, and I wanna know where Fred and Ethel are, that's what I wanna know. And now, Mrs. Pastore, I'll turn it back over to you.
And as you can see, they had certain aspects of their character that they had to learn about. Their challenges, their schooling, their early life, what made them famous. So they had certain pieces that they put together as part of their oral presentation. Nina Julian.
Hello, my name is Marie Antoinette. I was born in Vienna, Austria in 1755. As a child, my life was easy. My parents were Emperor and Empress of Austria. My tutors never made me do anything for school. I played night and day. I had a beautiful voice. I would sing in family concerts while my siblings would play instruments. When I was 15, I was sent to France to marry Louis Auguste, the future king. I am famous because I married Louis Auguste. Some of my important contributions are that I was an example of how out of touch I was with the common French people. I faced a lot of challenges. For example, I once had women show up at my castle with pitchforks, brooms, and guns shouting to Paris. People also sung a song about me. It goes like this. You've given offense aplenty, little queen of only 20. You'll go home to Austria, fa la la, fa la la. A couple things you might find interesting are, it is believed I said let them eat cake when the hungry peasants asked for bread. It was actually said by King Louis XIV's wife. I died on when I was executed, my jewels went missing. It is believed they ended up on Oak Island, Nova Scotia, Canada. I died on October 16, 1793. After going to court for treason, my head was cut off by a guillotine.
Ella Pinto.
Hello, my name is Katherine Johnson. I was born in White Silver Springs, West Virginia in 1918. As a child, my life was different. I faced discrimination. My mom was a teacher and my dad was a farmer and custodian. My dad was very smart. He could solve equations not even my teachers could figure out. As a child, I also skipped many grades. I was only 10 when I got into high school. One of my favorite classes was geometry. My teacher, Angie Turner King, acted as a mentor to me and gave me encouragement to succeed. So did my principal, Sherman H. Gus. I am famous because I was the first female NASA employee to help fly somebody to the moon using orbital mechanics. I am also famous because I was the first African American mathematician. Some of my important contributions are that I was the first female and African American mathematician. I was also a pioneer in American space computations that have changed every major space program. Some challenges that I faced were that I was African American, so we faced discrimination, which means we were not treated with equal rights like white people. Another challenge was that I had to walk an hour to the bathroom because it was a mile away, and African Americans had to use different bathrooms than white people, so they always thought I was skipping out. Some interesting facts are that I am 99 years old and won the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I also started working at NASA in 1953. I'm still alive and live in Virginia with my husband, Jim Johnson. Thank you.
Andrew Hinault.
Hello, my name is Nikola Tesla. I was born in Serbia in the year 1856. As a child, my life was full of wonder. When I was 3, I pet my cat and sparked flew out of his fur. What was that, I wondered? My dad told me it was electricity, just like you see in the lightning storm. I was always curious. I saw energy everywhere and made experiments with water wheels and propellers in my backyard. I saw a picture of Niagara Falls and dreamed that one day I would turn Niagara Falls into electricity. I am famous because I invented alternating current, AC, to power generators, motors, and light bulbs. At the Chicago World's Fair, 100,000 light bulbs lit up the fairground at night using AC. No one had seen anything like it before. I also invented the Tesla coil. I used the Tesla coil to experiment with electric lighting, X-rays, and transmitting electricity wirelessly. I will show you this in a moment. Mr. Destro, come here.
Why do I think this is going to be painful?
It's not gonna.
Am I going to get a shock here?
No, you're not.
Okay. You sure?
Yes.
I'm definitely going to get a shock.
Okay, so is there any wires on it?
I do not see any wires.
You sure?
I'm sure I don't see any, yes.
Please put it up to the Tesla coil.
Just like any which way?
That.
Whoa! Look at that. How does that work?
I give you wireless electricity.
Very nice. Good job. How'd you do that?
Wireless electricity.
All right. I want to report on my desk by tomorrow morning. Good job.
I contributed to many things that are still used today. I realized my childhood dream by generating electricity from Niagara Falls. The electricity powered Buffalo, New York, and then eventually New York City, even the lights of Broadway. Soon electricity spread across America. My ideas contributed to the inventions of remote control, radio, X-rays, cell phones, and speedometers. I faced many challenges. For example, no one believed in my ideas. I moved to New York City because I thought Thomas Edison would like my AC idea, but he didn't. Edison believed in direct current, DC. We became rivals. Edison tried to make the public afraid of my AC power. He electrocuted animals in public. Some facts about me you might find interesting is that in 1943, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that I invented radio, not Marconi. My cat macaque sparked because of static electricity. Static electricity happens when electrons jump from atom to atom. I have a car brand and rock band named after me. The car brand because the car uses an AC induction motor. I died January 7th, 1943 in the New Yorker Hotel in New York City, in room 3327. I was 86 years old and I had a blood clot in my heart. For further information, please read Electrical Wizard by Elizabeth Rush and Wikipedia.
Emma Garceau.
Hello, my name is Julia Child. I was born in Pasadena, California in 1912. As a child, my life was adventurous. I was full of energy and spent most days roaming the neighborhood on a bicycle. I loved to tell jokes, play pranks on my friends and family. From a very young age, I stood out like the Empire State Building. I have 2 younger siblings, John and Dorothy. I am famous because in 1963, I was asked to appear on Boston Television News to promote my first cookbook. I surprised the staff by bringing eggs, a frying pan, a spatula, and a hot plate. I made an omelet on live TV. The next day, the viewers got more than 2 dozen views, calls, and letters asking to see more of me on TV. Some of my important contributions are how I brought the art of French cooking to Americans, and I showed women all over never to give up when things got tough. Although my cookbook was initially published, I never gave up. Thank goodness I didn't. I faced a lot of challenges. For example, when I first started French cooking class, I was placed in beginners. It was far too easy for me. I marched down to the director's office and insisted they put me into a higher level. Even though they didn't, they did, and I proved to them I could do it. Some interesting facts are, I worked for the Office of Strategic Services, one of the most top-secret agencies in the U.S. government. Also, I didn't start cooking until I was 32. I died on August 13, 2004, at the age of 91. In 2002, I made the decision to move back to California. I gave my house to Smith College. Paul's great-nephew helped me write my final cookbook about my time in France. Even as I became more ill, I never slowed down. I believed retired people are boring.
Quinn Howland.
Hello, my name is Mohandas Gandhi, also known as Gandhi. I was born in Purbanjar, India in 1869. As a child, my life was calm. I grew up with my mom and dad and my 2 half-sisters. When I was 7, my family moved from Purbanjar to Rajkot. At school, I was very shy. Later, when I turned 13, I got married. I am famous because I helped India become an independent country, although I was sent to jail. I had 170 men and women walk 240 miles with me. Some important contributes are India being an independent country. I launched the Quit India movement against the British, and I fought for freedom against the British. I faced a lot of challenges. Some challenges are I was discriminated when I was young for being an Indian immigrant. I was also sent to jail 2 times while helping India become independent. Some facts that you might find interesting are I had 4 children. Their names were Haril, Manil, Ramdas, and Devdas. My zodiac sign is a Scorpio. I died on January 30th, 1948.
And this costume was made by a very loving grandparent, so I wanted to say that. This is Samantha Norberg.
Hello, my name is Seabiscuit. I was born in Lexington, Kentucky on May 23rd, 1933. As a child, my life was training to race by Sonny Jim Fitzsimmons, sleeping and eating for long periods where I grew up on Claiborne Farm. I was undersized, knobby-kneed, and regulated to a heavy schedule of smaller races. I lost my first 17 races. After I lost the races, Sonny Jim did not spend time on me, and I became the joke of the stable. At 2, I started to gain attention after winning at Narragansett Park and setting a new track record. My old owner sold me to Charles S. Howard. He paid $8,000 at Saratoga in August. I am famous because I was an unlikely horse racing champion. I am famous for winning big races like Santa Anita and Baltimore's Plymouth Race Course. I was a hungry, sleepy colt that turned into a horse racing star. Some of my important contributions are I was born in the Great Depression and gave something to look forward to and hope when I won races. I faced a lot of challenges. For example, I hurt my leg in a race. Most racehorses get put down, but I was not. My jockey, Red Pullard, hurt his leg. In the beginning of my career, I lost a lot of races. A couple of things you might find interesting are my barn pal's name is Pumpkin, my uncle is War Admiral, and my grandfather is Man of War, 2 other famous racehorses. I died on May 17th, 1947, in Willis, California, of a heart attack. I was buried at Ridgewood Ranch.
Elizabeth Ross.
Hello, my name is Nadia Comaneci. I was born in Onsty, Romania in 1961. As a child, my life was different. I didn't really like the things that other young girls liked. I didn't like playing with Barbie dolls or makeup. I played outside a lot and visited my grandmother's farm, where I dug carrots out of the ground and ate ripe tomatoes. When I was little, about 3 or 4, I fell off a 5-meter high bridge, and after I only had a few bruises and I didn't cry. I knew I'd be a gymnast ever since I started. I started gymnastics when I was 6 years old and have loved it ever since. I am famous because my performance at the 1976 Olympics redefined both my sport and my audience's expectation of female athletes. Some of my important contributions are that I was the first woman to score a perfect 10 in Olympic Games in Montreal. I scored 7 perfect 10s and became the first all-around Olympic gold medalist ever. I faced a lot of challenges. For example, when I had to go train, I had to leave my family, and it was one of the hardest things in my life. I knew my training was important to me, but I loved my family a lot. At the age of 15, I felt lost and entered a period of personal uncertainty and difficulty. In 1977, I attempted to take my own life. I got my hands on a bottle of bleach and began to drink it. I had to go to the hospital for 2 days. A couple of things you might find interesting about me are my mom actually got the name Nadia from a Russian movie. Nadia actually means hope. When I scored my first perfect 10, the scoreboard didn't even go up to 10, so they gave me a 1 in place of it. Today, I am 56 years old and have decided to move to Oklahoma, where my husband Bart Klein and I are raising our son Dylan. To learn more about my life, please visit your local library.
Wow.
Thank you very much. As you can see, they worked long and hard on these projects, and they did an outstanding job.
That was an outstanding job.
Great job, boys and girls. You should be very proud of yourselves.
And to memorize all that. Nice job, kids. That's very interesting to have that every year.
It's the best, it's so interesting.
I
It
know.
is, it is. And they'll never forget their character.
I was worried
That's
about that
the
little
kind of
one.
learning where you
Somebody-
just get out of the way.
In the horse,
Yeah.
and you weren't to let your flowers.
Oh, good. Oh, is that your
He's on my
niece?
team, so I thought you might,
That's
but-
so adorable.
My mother-in-law's talented.
Oh, my God. Jamie, I said to Greg, I hope she doesn't suffocate.
They had her rear the head for like an hour and
Oh,
hold her.
check it out.
Probably pass these on, or they
That was Jamie's niece.
Okay, Seabiscuit.
Seabiscuit. That was very, yeah. Yeah.
I like Lucy, I recognize her.
Lucy, yeah. Now, that was her grandmother that did that?
Mother-in-law.
Your mother-in-law? She's talented.
So talented. She do all the Halloween costumes? I fumbled through them, but she totally would. If I told you how long it took her to do, it was a while. And everything to it, yeah. Take it off, she must be hot. Oh, she was, oh, gee. That too. Oh, really?
And memorizing all that, that is.
That was a long
easy.
line,
Those
those
were
were long
long.
lines to memorize. Yeah, there she goes.
Yeah, we still have some left. And it's just right, the superintendent's report card on it, so we'll go on.
Okay.
Communications, any communications this evening? Mr. Destro first.
I do not have any tonight, Mrs. O'Coin.
Okay, our members.
Point, just the email that was sent to all of us from Kristen Castigian. I think we should just address it in open session, that we did receive an email from a should I read it or just paraphrase it? Is it? Paraphrase it. We received an email from a citizen and a mother of Dudley-Charlton students who's a resident of Charlton with a concern regarding the proposal for the marijuana cultivation facility that is being developed in Charlton, and her concern regarding the proximity to the Heritage School and the Charlton Middle School. She was seeking our input and position on this proposal in the light of the proximity to our schools and requesting our attendance at the upcoming meeting to speak to this issue. And I know that I personally responded to let her know that we would bring the email up under communications and open it up to the committee. I'll speak for us since I'm bringing it forward. I know that in the past, when there have been political issues in relation to state issues, that the committee has not taken a political position on an issue. I know that when we were talking about the charter school ballot question, we have all made our own personal statements regarding these issues, but we have not come forward as a committee to take a stand. I think that that's the position that I'll maintain for myself right now, that I'll act in accordance to my own viewpoints as a citizen, but I wouldn't expect the committee to stand on an issue such as this in the town.
And anybody want to remark on that? Any others?
I would have to agree. I mean, from a personal standpoint, we may have our own position on it, but from a school committee standpoint, I don't think that it's our place to take a stand on a political issue.
Right. And I feel the same. I think it's an individual decision, and as a board, we should take a stand on that political issue.
I responded back to her as well.
I have a personal opinion as well, a professional opinion as well. The only difference I would feel than what you have all expressed is if this has impact on our children in the school district, then we have the right to have a voice as the school district. I don't know that we have enough facts to know if we do think it has an impact, but I don't think it's inappropriate. My own opinion is, I don't think it's inappropriate if we were to ask the town to give us answers on if there is an impact to our students.
And
As far as I know so far, we've not been contacted by the town to solicit our input, have we?
No, not officially, no.
I believe it was stated at a public meeting.
That they had the school support.
I
So-
said that straight.
You said that straight,
I did.
okay.
Yes.
as the, a committee, if we have a majority that wants to take a political stand, but I don't think we have the majority. I mean, Elaine, you think it's an individual decision?
Here's where I think in relation to education, if we were looking at it as a school committee, we would look at issues as far as, is there a traffic impact on our children transporting to and from school? Is there an impact on, awareness and education that we can place in our curriculum? I think the concern and the hesitancy that I have on this particular issue is that it's very divisive, and it's very divisive based on people's viewpoint of the topic of the development as much as it's not as much related to the development. I do find personally that there were statements made that indicated that they were in communication with us. I had asked Mr. Destro about that. We were not contacted and asked for input. So I believe that it was misleading to the public to think that we were part of conversations initially. I think that the concerns that we could voice as a school committee are things that are under the jurisdiction of the planning board and the board of selectmen in the development of the project, and anything else other than that, I think we're making a political opinion on whether or not we approve or disapprove of what the development is, and I don't think that's a precedent that I want to set as a school committee.
I guess I'm not saying we should take a stance if we are in support or against. I just merely think it's appropriate if we were to ask if there are any impacts that could come forward to our students.
That's something.
I don't disagree on those viewpoints. I think if we have questions, it would make sense for us to direct them to Mr. Destro, so that if Mr. Destro's in contact with the town, that he can convey those. But my most pressing issue would be in relation to traffic. And what I've read so far on the process is that they're directing traffic during non-busy hours. So we could confirm that kind of information. But I think if there are questions that we should direct Mr. Destro to submit those to the town for answers.
Sure. I just didn't know if we needed to do that in a public setting so we've all talked about it, or if it's individual questions that we could ask you to
can
seek.
ask if it's an individual
You can,
question.
okay.
You can just
Fair enough.
get in touch with Mr. Destro.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it as
Yeah.
it's our own individual decision right now.
Sure.
If we have. If you
So
have any
fine.
questions, we can direct it to Mr. Destro or our interim superintendent.
I just want to say, so that the mystery doesn't remain lingering in the air, I was contacted before this was, I guess it was just a thought at the time, I don't know, a year and a half ago, whatever that was, by the town administrator to kind of get a sense of where I might stand on that kind of a thing, or would I want to be involved and all that. And, you know, I kind of said, gee, that kind of took me by surprise. I had really nothing to say about it. I was never contacted again after that. And that's okay. I'm not criticized. They don't have to contact me. But I just wanted to be clear that that was the only contact that I've had with the town about it. And again, clearly, that's not a criticism of them. It's just the truth.
All right. Any other communications, members? And I don't have any this evening. And that brings us up to superintendent's report, Mr. Destro.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. Well, I'm starting to come to grips with the fact that maybe everybody's not here for us. Okay, you mind if I stand? It's not much difference when I sit or stand, but in any event, I think the best way to begin is to read this letter that formally went out on June 5th, 2018 to Connie Galley, and then I will say a few words myself, and then we'll take it from there. So the formal letter reads as follows. It says, "Dear Mrs. Galley, I write to inform you that at its last regularly scheduled meeting of Wednesday, May 23rd, 2018, the Dudley-Charlton Regional School Committee voted unanimously to name the Shepherd Hill Regional High School Auditorium in your honor. The Constance V. Galley Auditorium will be officially unveiled in a ceremony at a later date. However, the school committee requests your presence at its meeting tonight. This decision to forever link you to the Shepherd Hill Auditorium where you served so well and with distinction was spurred by a heartfelt letter written to the committee by a music parent and colleague. The committee did not make its decision lightly, as befitting in honor of this magnitude. I hope you can join us on June 13th. Yours truly, me." And so at that meeting on May 23rd, the school committee had been considering, just a little backstory, whether or not to make a policy as to when these kinds of requests come forward. And in my years in Dudley-Charlton, I've never received a request of this sort. It's not frequent because I think people generally understand that this isn't something that you do lightly. There is, on occasion, a person who comes along who has had such an unusual impact on a particular part of the school district that this is something that you take under consideration. And when we considered all the information, for example, that Connie came to Shepherd Hill, like many good things, in the decade of the 1980s. And like most of us in the room who are educators, we started, you know, at the bottom and we did whatever they asked us to do. So Connie would have been teaching all the music classes, sweeping the stage floor if she had to do that, or whatever she had to do, right, back then. And we all know what happened from there. It was like over the past 30-plus years, I like to say it this way, brick by brick, she built the Shepherd Hill music program into something of a juggernaut. I mean, something that is well known truly throughout the country. In fact, this is the school committee, block your ears, you've heard this story 100 times. But recently I was on vacation in the Dominican Republic, and I had on a Shepherd Hill show choir shirt, proudly wearing it in the Dominican Republic. And a girl who turned out to be from a high school in Massachusetts, I can't remember which one, walked by me and I heard her say to her parents, "Oh, Shepherd Hill, they're really good." And when so yeah, she was from Massachusetts. But to dramatize the story, when you hear that in the Dominican Republic, you know that there's been some grown-ups who've had a great impact on the students who've come through the program. The thing is, though, there's a lot of people in the world who win. but there aren't that many people in the world who win while they're serving. And I had the great privilege for 3 years of having my office across the hall from the music department. And it's one of the things I'll truly miss about being the superintendent is that you hear that noise and it reminds you why you're there. You might be talking about politics, you might be talking about budget, you might be dealing with a legal issue, but when you hear that sound, you know, oh yeah, that's what we're here for, the students. And those are some of the very best students we have, and Connie certainly has contributed to that. And the last thing I'll say is that our music programs don't begin in high school. They begin when the kids are 4 or 5 years old. And all of our teachers in the district are outstanding in our music program. And many of them, if not all of them, have either had as a teacher or a mentor or at the very least a colleague, Connie Galley. And so she really is a common denominator in much of our success. And I cannot be happier to have written that letter. It's one of the very few, you know, my job's tough, but when you get to do things like that, it brings me great pride. So I'll shut up now, and I will just welcome Connie and let you know that Mr. Chaplin will be taking it under consideration and speaking to some people in this room about how we want to go from here. But the bottom line is it was an honor bestowed upon you very deservingly by a bunch of people who didn't take that type of thing lightly. So congratulations, you very much deserve it.
Just say, this is a little overwhelming, but I just would really like to say thank you. I'm humbled and just so very grateful for this honor. It's been my privilege to be able to teach in the district for, well, my whole career, which is 30 more than years. So, and you know, I've truly always felt that the work that I've done has been valued and supported, and I can't be more grateful for that, you know, it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge the fact that I know that any success I might have had did not happen in a vacuum. You know, we have the support for the arts in our district from you, from Mr. Destro, the administration, my wonderful colleagues, and all of these families and wonderful students. And we all know that the best and most talented students all go through the Dudley School District. So, you know, again, it's been my privilege. It's been a good run, and this incredible honor is the proverbial icing on what was a really good cake. So I just wanted to say thank you again from the bottom of my heart. This really means a lot to me.
Literally, this was your home. I mean, you really spent more time here than at your own home, I think.
Sometimes.
You just gave a whole lot.
And I loved every minute of it.
Yeah.
You never looked for the glory. It wasn't about you. It was always about the students doing their best. And you were always in the background, but you never wanted to get the limelight. You deserved
And
it all.
believe it or not, Connie was one of my students at Bartlett High School.
Yes, indeed.
That's where it started up.
Well, thank you again.
Congratulations.
Ms. Galley, can I tell them what your first words were to me when you found out about this?
But I'm not dead yet.
That's right, that's right. I said, but I'm not dead yet. No, and many more,
And
trust
now
me.
you can enjoy it.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, great job.
Sure.
You want to take a picture with them?
What should we all?
How about
whole
for
committee?
Connie with the committee?
Better, maybe.
Connie, you want to do a picture with the school committee? That might be a nice photo
Yes.
opportunity. Here, sit in my seat.
Oh, yeah, that'd be good.
That'll be cool.
Take the name down. Take down his name.
Yeah.
And Rich, you stay in, and Greg too. You want Greg in here? And Greg, we want you in here too. Good.
Mr. Destro's going to be there first.
Oh, dear. I guess we'll see it around.
We can all
This
stay.
is really very overwhelming. Just saying.
Signing dates. Yes, you sit and we'll stand, no, we'll sit, Mary. We'll stand right here.
Okay, and I'll sit, so
Okay.
see everybody else.
Jamie, you okay?
Everybody smile.
Thank you.
That's a nice picture, thank you.
Okay, yeah, this is really quick. Just a couple of upcoming events, both of which ironically, a better word would be coincidentally, happen to be at Dudley Middle School. First, tomorrow, the 14th at 11 a.m. is our annual Flag Day ceremony. It's taking place in the gym tomorrow, Chris? I believe so. And is 11 the proper time? That's what Ms. Hedges said. So 11 o'clock in the gym at Dudley Middle School is the annual Flag Day ceremony. It's always fun. And then on a week from tonight, the 20th at 6 p.m. is the annual Grade 8 promotional at Dudley Middle School. And of course, you'd all be welcome to attend that. And finally, I was contacted by Glenn Kuchar earlier this week with his summary report of his, for lack of a better term, conversations that he had with us and with the various groups that we placed before him on that particular day. I will forward his report to you tomorrow electronically. Just as a bit of a preview, he had some very, he seemed to get, you read something like this and you say, is that who we are? And I think he got it right, and I think a lot of his suggestions were not only, right, but they're actually doable. They're not going to cause us to have to completely reinvent the wheel. Among them are to develop a leadership cultivation program, a plan of succession, a flow chart, fewer direct reports to the superintendent, and cross-training among staff at the district office. Those are just, they were like 7 recommendations, and those are a handful, but I'll send that out to you, and then we can discuss next steps at a later date, okay? And that is all I have, Mrs. O'Coin.
Okay, that concludes the superintendent's report. That brings us to new business, consideration to approve 2018-2019 school improvement plans. And are we going to start with the middle schools first?
If we may, with the school improvement plans, can maybe we bring all 4, we want 4 elementary schools at the same time? Yeah? Or maybe we'll go 2 at a time, might be better. If we do, first we'll do Charlton Elementary and Mason Road School, and then we'll go to 2 to 4. It's just kind of be too crowded.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So we were asked to give a few highlights from our previous plan and then to talk about our new plan. So a few highlights from the Charlton Elementary last year's plan. We had a technology goal, and in that we raised $4,297 through our own fundraising to enhance technology at Charlton Elementary. And I'll give you an example of things that money will buy, because the year before we raised a similar amount and we were able to replace 2 projectors. We bought a hive of B-Bots and a whole slew of Osmos, and we bought a subscription to Go Noodle Plus, and I will explain that in the next goal, which was to support students with attention issues. And the Go Noodle Plus is, Go Noodle is something that you put on the screen, and it's a movement thing, but Go Noodle Plus is something you pay for, and you can embed skills into it. So we spent a professional development day, half day, all in the same room, all putting skills in, put them on a shared drive. And so at any time, whatever you're teaching, you can take a 5-minute break, but you can just take a 5-minute break that's movement with the skills right in it. So that was pretty cool. And then we also bought a lot more alternative seating choices, and we had a staff meeting where we made sensory bins for children. My favorite goal from this past year was my safety goal, and that's where we instituted our High Five Fridays with our police and our firefighters. And I have to say, our policemen have taken it to a whole new level because they're there almost every day now. So there is a policeman at our door every day greeting our students. But our firemen can't be neglected in that, because on Fridays, when it's Spirit Day, they come dressed for the Spirit Day, whether it's a teddy bear added to their shirts or a pig nose on. They've done a great job. And another thing about that goal that was really exciting is we had the Molly Bish Center at our field day yesterday. And any child that was there that had a parent there, they were willing to make them a safety kit with their fingerprints, their picture, the whole kit that they can take. And they're going to be at Field Day tomorrow, too. And so the school council made sure of that. So our 4 goals for next year, we're going to have a technology literacy goal. Another goal is to increase
Shepherd Hill handbook with the changes. Okay, any discussion, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
Okay, Budget and Finance Subcommittee report, and that's Stephanie.
It's short and sweet. Tonight we talked about a new accounting system, and hopefully implementing that within the next 2 to 3 school years. But it would help streamline the central office with the databases of information that we have up in the central office. And we also talked about how we really have to start putting together a list about capital improvements and how we need to start talking to the towns early this fall about it. And then I'm going to turn it over to Greg.
I think you pretty much hit on everything, honestly. I don't have really anything to add to that.
Okay, any questions? Thank you, Stephanie. Director of Finance and Operations report, Mr. Matthew.
Thank you very much. A couple of standard items for the committee. The Heritage School received a $50 donation from a parent to help pay overdue lunch balances for families identified. The District Art Show, as an entity, received donations of $476 from its art show activities. In addition, the high school has received a donation of numerous desks and chairs from Nichols College. Those are the donations part of this. In addition, on Mr. Chaplin's memo, he has requested disposal of some obsolete furniture, which he has indicated has served the district well for the past 40 years and that we have received our money from.
I don't agree with throwing them away. I don't know how the committee feels. Even if they're 40 years old, they were in good condition, I thought.
Is there a way to donate them?
You have space in your house? I'll do it tomorrow.
I like the tables we had.
The what? I'm sorry, you like the tables that we have now?
No, I like the tables we had.
Come sit over here, this one's about to knock over. Hanging on my Band-Aids. I'll do whatever you want, but we don't have the space to store it. I don't
Okay.
know where we would put it.
Do you think we can sell them, or instead of just throwing them away? How does the committee feel? I mean, I'm only one
I don't think
person.
we can give them away. They're well, I'll tell you right now, the stuff I bought, we're not gonna get 40 years out of them, so they're well built.
That's what I said, but
I don't know what.
What?
Well, it seems crazy to just throw them out, because they were pretty good if you're hot up for something.
They do.
Well, we could, if I may, we certainly can try to sell them. In order to sell them, we still need to declare them as surplus. If school committee's desire is to declare them as surplus but not just simply throw them away, but find some useful life in some form or fashion, ideally with a revenue stream, that's perfectly fine for the committee to do, I
Right,
believe.
because some people refinish. I know when they built the new school in Webster, I bought a desk, an accounting desk, and had it refinished. It's beautiful. It's an antique. So maybe maybe we could sell the furniture. I don't think we should just throw it away. What do you guys think?
I think
it's good to explore.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to add more work for the principal, but
No.
I mean, I think that if you could donate it to maybe some like area schools around the area that might want them, but like you said, I think you need to go through them and toss out what really is not working.
Right.
And that may be a lot of it. So.
But to Mr. Chaplin's point, with lack of storage here at
Right.
Shepherd Hill
No, I
and all of
agree.
the schools, there should be some time limit to, okay, you tried it over the summer, you can't do anything, it's
Maybe we'll try it
August
over the
15th.
summer and see.
So through the summer, and
Yeah.
if not, then that would be appropriate to.
Then it goes to Mrs. O'Coin's house.
Delivery.
We'll get the trucks, we'll get the caravan ready.
Can maybe
Or,
cut it down
is
to
there
just
any
1
way,
month,
like, you
maybe.
could have
Seriously, yeah.
a little flea market or something for people to look at them and buy them that way?
Sure, and we can put the library books there as well, and,
Those
you know.
35,000 books we discarded a couple of years ago.
Yeah. So maybe perhaps if they're not, if we don't have a good home for them by the end of July, we can at least revisit it with the committee.
Good, okay, be good.
There.
So, okay?
Have to make a motion for that.
Yeah, well, we'll have to make a motion that it is surplus, but not to throw them away yet. Okay? So, first of all, we want to accept the donations that you set forth. So I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Community involvement, and that goal is because I was so excited about the safety goal and the way that the police and the fire became really part of our school. In this goal, what we want to do is pair community people with every classroom. So whether it be Mrs. Craver or a fireman or a policeman, I want there to be a partner with a community person with the classroom, and once a month make some kind of a connection, whether it be lunch with them, maybe they're just standing at the door greeting the children like the classroom teacher, reading, lunch with them, because I see the positive effect had on our community because of the fire and the police being part of our community now. I want to extend that a little bit. And then our third goal is to really take the Everyone Matters that's in the strategic plan and make it part of everything we do at our school. And then our last goal for next year is to support social and emotional development.
Great job.
Any questions? Okay.
Great job. Great job.
Great Thank job. you.
Mrs. Pacheco. Good evening. So a couple of highlights really quickly when we think about this last year. One of the new things that happened at Mason Road is we had our literacy night in October, and we ended up with a storybook parade. It was very well attended and very well loved. We also had our second annual Memorial Day program, and we earned over $5,000 for the Jump for Heart for the Heart Association, American Heart Association. And then looking at our goal updates. Under communication, one of our goals was to establish a Mustang Buddy program, and we were very excited to collaborate with the Shepherd Hill High School students, and they came in every Tuesday and Thursday and connected in our kindergarten classrooms and our first grade classrooms and spent time being strong role models, helping them with math facts, helping them with their reading, or just listening to them read. So we really appreciated that, and we're hoping to continue that partnership with them next year. Under climate, culture, and civility, we continued our Kids of Character focus and really instilling that Mustang pride and the Mustang way, and what does it mean to be a child of integrity? What does it mean to be a child who has compassion for other people? We continued with our calming caddies, our calming corners, as part of our safe and supportive measures. And this year we established our safe and supportive behavior team to where we were able to really support our teachers and students who may be struggling and provide strategies and different possibilities for students to have positive measures in place so that they could be successful within the classroom. Goal 3 was curriculum instruction and assessment. Mrs. Seibel and I collaborated, and with Mason Road and Dudley-Charlton, we combined, and we were able to provide training for all of the teachers at both schools on planning and incorporating effective learning targets and what that looks like for purposeful planning, and also helping the students really to understand what their learning destination is, so that when you walk in the room you can ask them, so what's your target today? And not so much being posted, but the teachers actually referring to it throughout the lesson so that the children really own their learning. They understand where they're headed, why they're headed there, and how they can show that they've done so. So we're very thrilled to see that. So as you walk around our 2 schools, you'll see that. So that was something we really had wanted to do. Also this year, our 2 kindergarten classrooms in both schools piloted the focus on K2 from Boston. That went very successful, and I have to say my teachers, Mrs. Lundquist and Mrs. Hooper, they did such a great job. They did modeling. They had the teachers come in and see how their room was set up. They provided PD. And so we're excited to say all 5 teachers are on board for that next year, and we're ready to roll. And then as we look at our upcoming 2018-2019 year, I'm just going to hit one for each one of these. We've got our media center under technological literacy. We're going to be creating a media center at Mason Road. Very excited to see that, as we're going to be incorporating multiple devices as we bring in that project-based learning. Under empathy, initiative, self-direction, and resiliency, we're going to continue with our Mustang Buddy program, and we're going to take our behavior team and expand it and open it up now to parents, so that we can really, with that brand new adjustment counselor, be able to give that wraparound support and have parents come in and provide that for them. And then finally, critical thinking and problem solving. We're going to continue with our RTI block and really embracing the grade 1 curriculum that the teachers have been working so hard on, and the Boston K2.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you.
Next is Dudley Elementary and Heritage. Accept the donations that Mr. Matthew just put forward.
Second, sorry.
Okay, discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. And then we can, I'll entertain a motion to maintain the furniture as surplus right now, and then we'll revisit it. So I'll entertain a motion to maintain the furniture as a surplus or obsolete.
So moved.
Okay. Second. Any more discussion on it? Okay, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay, Mr. Matthew?
Thank you very much. I do have copies of the special ed transportation contract for signature. We can do that later on this evening. In terms of FY18 closeout, we're still working on, obviously it's still the middle of the month of June. I've alerted the committee that, I've been very concerned about returning an appropriate amount of money to excess and deficiency. And I think each and every year as our budget tightens, and we try to, we have the limited revenues, returning those monies are increasingly difficult. So we'll continue to analyze this, and I'll bring forward additional information and final numbers to the committee, either at the next meeting or the meeting in July. In terms of the FY19 budget update, there's an agenda item for approval of additional staffing. I don't recommend, per the budget memo, updating the revenues until the state has finalized its work and we have concrete numbers. There's no point in voting something only to have to revote it again at this point in time. I would ask that you accept the French River Education Collaborative bids for copy paper. The memo is attached here. WB Mason was the low price again.
Okay, well, we have two separate ones here. One is at $23.83 per carton, and that's with WB Mason, so I'll entertain a motion to approve that bid for the copying paper.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Okay, motion carries, it's unanimous. And then there's another copy paper bid with WB Mason, and that is at $24.58, that's a unit price. I'll entertain a motion to approve that bid.
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, that's unanimous.
And just for clarity's sakes, the first one was for drop-off at one location,
Right.
and the second one was
Was
for multiple locations.
And, okay, go ahead, Rich.
And I was just going to say, we did enroll the Dudley Middle School in a voluntary electricity reduction program. While it may generate a little bit of revenue for the district, most importantly, I think it will give us some insight into when National Grid is going to be looking at setting its demand charges for us. And if we can capitalize on that and reduce our usage during those particular days, not only at Dudley Middle School, but all of the schools, we can actually have an effect on our electric bill, because they have a demand charge that's based basically on the 3 hottest days of the year. They look at your usage on those days. So this gives us some insight as to when they might be doing that.
Now, how are we doing with the lighting at Charlton Middle School? Do we have it yet?
You will have a chance to see it for yourself in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay, good.
So
Is
we're
it
gonna have to move the meeting to
special
9:30 p.m.
Yeah.
Can't really see it.
Well, we may be able to see it when we exit.
That's a
Very
good point,
good.
Rich.
And
There
that
was
con-
another donation from Michael Burns, shouldn't we approve that too? For the basketball, I see it here.
And you know, there was
Oh, yeah,
another
I'm sorry.
donation
I missed
that
that
we
on Mr.
overlooked.
Chaplin's memo.
It's on the memo.
$900
Okay.
donation.
So
for
I'll
the outdoor.
entertain a motion to approve that donation.
So moved. Second.
Discussion, seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Matthew. And next on the agenda is cafeteria deficits discussion, and I know Mary was concerned, so Mary, you can start
Okay,
this.
so a few months ago, we went through the policy.
Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to bring the students from the Wax Museum. I was thinking 4 to 5, so I invited 8, thinking that they would have dance lessons, sports, and all of them wanted to be here. Seabiscuit and Julia Childs actually ran in from, they have a big dance performance, but they said, we're gonna do our dances and then we're coming, so thank you. Yes.
If I may, I'm sorry to interrupt. My son, Anthony Destro, wanted me to complain because Nikola Tesla, who was here tonight with the wireless electricity, is supposed to be at the championship game, and he's on my son's team. And his dad asked me, Mr. Destro, what would you do if you had to choose championship game and school committee? And I said, what would I do when I was a kid, or what would I do now as a dad? And I said, no, it's a family decision, but clearly they chose to come here, and that's how much it meant to him to be here. So, and AJ really wasn't complaining. I just thought that was a cute way to start. So.
Well, I hope they win the game
Oh, my
regardless.
goodness, if they win, it's just, everything works out great.
Okay, great.
Last I heard, they were up 5-3, but it was getting nerve-wracking.
Right, so I will just touch on a couple of the highlights from this past school year. Under the first goal, communications, community engagement, and partnerships, I think the highlight under that strategic goal was our first ever Heritage School Specialist Night, and that was an evening where the 5 Heritage School specialists collaborated with the Charlton Fire Department, the Charlton PTO, our district's food service, and presented a little bit about what each of the specialists do in their curriculum, and then had the community organizations in to show what they offer to the community as well. At that evening, we had a musical petting zoo put on by Mrs. Arsenault, our music teacher. Parents could run relay races and then monitor their heart rate, and families could come and enjoy the safety house that was brought from the Charlton Fire Department. Strategic goal number 2, Mrs. Parmley had talked about, and I think Mrs. Pacheco did as well, creating those spaces in our classroom. Many in the district had taken a class entitled Safe and Supportive Schools, and speaking to some of the challenges that our students walk through the door with every day, and trying to develop areas in our classroom to help children learn to regulate behaviors, how to deal with when they're feeling stressed or anxious. So we created calming zones. Some of our teachers call them chill zones or Zen dens, just areas in the classroom. And we had a staff meeting in December where each teacher created a bucket to put in their classroom of calming tools for our students. And in our curriculum instruction and assessment, I would have to say that our expansion of Google Classroom has allowed all our students, we had an additional 3 Chrome carts come into Heritage School this year, knowing that our 3rd and 4th graders that were going to be tested on the Chromebooks with MCAS. But it was so much more than that. It wasn't just let's get ready for MCAS, it was let's use the technology we have to enhance and expand our curriculum. And the students, for the first time ever, were able to type all their Wax Museum biographies. So that was a good exercise in putting the technology to good use for their final project. So, and just a couple of things looking forward to this year's strategic plan and my school improvement plan in connection with the district strategic plan. Again, highlighting that technology, with the good graces of the voters of Dudley-Charlton, each of the elementary schools will have an additional resource in our schools with the expansion of the role of the we've always called them our computer specialists, but we will have also a technology integration specialist, which will allow us to, again, use our technology, our existing hardware, to improve our students' skills and expand our curriculum. Another thing we're looking for at Heritage, three teachers went to a training on Genius Hour, which supports project-based learning. Several of the teachers have been doing it for a couple of years, and it's where you carve out Google, Facebook, some of the technology companies and other companies, 3M, uses a portion of their employees' day. What do you want to work on? What are you interested in? Sometimes they call it 20% time. And what our students are going to do during that time is use that to either work on project-based learning.
On the school lunch policy, and we talked about, what happens when there's a deficit and people don't pay. And I was thinking about that, and I was doing a little bit of research, and I found out that over the past 4 years, there's a considerable amount of deficit there. So in 2015, for example, there was $6,624. In 2016, there was $14,410. In 2017, there was $13,138. And as of now, it's somewhere around 20,000, but that'll come down with receipts coming in, right?
At least that's been the historic pattern.
Okay. So at a minimum, for the past 3 years, not counting this one, we're talking about $34,000 plus that we have not recovered, correct?
Well, those were the deficits at the end of the year. We have recovered some of that money, but not all of it.
Okay. So that's still a lot of money, and with the budget being as tight as it is, and most people being expected to pay for the lunches that they're purchasing, with the exception of those students that truly can't pay, and we try to identify those students and reach out to them so that we can offer them alternatives and help them out. What I was thinking was that it may be time for us to take a look at the possibility of implementing a collection agency for those accounts that are in deficit but truly could be paid. There are collection agencies that do not charge anything unless they collect the money. So they just take a small percentage of what they collect and the rest comes back to the school. So some money is better than no money. The way our policy reads right now, we say that we can go to collection agency or we can take some drastic measures, but the likelihood that we do that is probably very slim. So in addition to that, while I was thinking about it, I happened to be in Rhode Island and I came across this article that I'll pass out to everyone, where there's actually a Rhode Island school that is taking a look at doing this as well, and it was just coincidental. And you can ignore the typo in the headline, actually, Catherine.
I didn't say anything, gee whiz.
So basically, they're talking about ways to bring money into the district where we're losing money, and this is a way that they can recover some of the money that is being lost through school lunch accounts not being paid. So I'd like to throw that out as a possibility to the committee.
And I'll be the first one to talk because you know how I feel about food and kids. First of all, I wouldn't go along with it. I know I would never vote for a collection agency. I feel you know, we should try to collect this money the way, maybe to improve the way we're doing it with the principals, but it's an investment. We'll have to take it out of general fund. It's gonna only take it out of general fund. We're paying ourselves back, really. Take it out of general fund at the end of, if you have bad debts. You put it into your revolving account. If we make money, then automatically we're gonna have reserves after to use. So we're really paying back ourselves. I think it's an investment. Food is an investment. It goes along with learning. And I just feel, I just don't think we're in the business to hire a collection agency. I want all kids to eat free. Unfortunately, we can't. Right now, we have Mason Road, but I would never go for a collection agency. I would try to collect it and have maybe a different system, but letters do go out. Just like people that owe for books, you have to try to collect that. We don't have a collection agency for that. And it's just like we're investing in technology for our kids' learning. We have to invest in the food. Some people, maybe they're on the borderline, they can't pay. And I don't want the kids to suffer. And a collection agency, they're going to harass these people. I don't feel we're in the position to.
Well, certainly we're not saying, I'm not proposing that we don't feed the children.
Right, no, I know,
In any way,
I
shape, or
know.
form. Because, and our policy says everybody gets fed.
Or to explore something that they're interested in. And when 3M had this in their company and said, okay, on Friday afternoons, you can work on whatever it is you're excited and curious about, that was when sticky notes were invented. So we're hoping we, with that Genius Hour, so that will be going on in 3 classrooms in grades 2, 3, and 4, and I'm sure the teachers have agreed that went to the training to do a presentation for staff, and then students will be doing that throughout the school year. In the strategic goal with the focus, district strategic goal on empathy, we are going to continue our expansion of the zones of regulation. This year, my school psychologist, Mrs. Brothers, trained staff, she trained students, and she trained parents. We had a parent presentation on what exactly zones of regulation, what the curriculum looks like, and how it helps our students, again, with students who, all students, and have some form of anxiety, worry that this program is designed to help them with. And then I just wanted to touch on one of the other things I'm excited about in that same goal is, and this was brought to me by Mrs. Furman, she did it with her class today, and we're going to expand it. I had never heard of it, and if you have an opportunity, it's a movement called Because I Said I Would. And it's a social movement, and it's a nonprofit that's dedicated to the betterment of humanity through promises made and kept. So it's just about making promises, keeping promises, and as children make promises, they write their promise down and give it to the teacher, and when they complete that promise, they're then able to display that. So that's something we're going to work on with staff and students this year. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that next year my goal is going to be that I'm going to go before Mrs. Pistori, so I don't have to say ditto to so many things, because, you know, we do definitely team up and we talk about goals and what we're doing. So some of them may sound very similar to what all the other elementary principals are saying.
We're coordinated.
Yep, so based on some highlights of success for this year, based on the goals of the 2017 and 2018 school improvement plan, under community engagement, we had we expanded our relationship with Nichols College and a partnership with them. We brought many of the students in for volunteers for family nights and game nights, which was really fun. The kids really enjoyed it, as well as just coming to visit with the students and read with the students. We also had family game nights instituted under community engagement, where we held a family game night for each grade level, where we had trivia for one of the grades, we had Family Feud for another grade, and we had bingo for another grade. So that was a great family night that was supported with donations from parents, et cetera, for prizes. So under curriculum, we
we use the data analysis of the STAR assessment data to help us to increase our responses to response to intervention tools. So we were able to increase services supporting about 120 children in level 2, tier 2 and tier 3 supports. We also, under curriculum, as Mrs. Parmalee had stated, we did the PD on the learning targets, and that our teachers have instituted supporting and having I-CAN statements and learning targets to help the students to know where they're going in their coursework. This year, we're looking at using the strategic plan, and under the academic competencies, we're looking at the technological literacy of improving and promoting the supportive and effective use of our classroom technology for curriculum and instruction. With the inclusion of the technology integration specialist, we are very excited that we are going to be participating in project-based learning and doing some professional development even within our own school. We're very lucky to have Katrina Schmidt, who will be full-time at our school, and we are already sitting down and planning for next year. She's very excited about it, and she will be bringing a lot to the classrooms as far as academic choice for assignments, etc. Under personal competencies, we're going to continue to work on our behavior interventions and support, our positive behavior interventions and support, and our responsive classroom implementation. We are going to establish a safe and supportive leadership team, and we're going to expand our school-wide behavior expectations, looking into office referrals, etc. In the interpersonal competencies, we're looking at increasing our communication with our Title I and our special education, our 504 population, and our ELL families to help the children and the families feel more connected to our school community. And we're also going to work on global awareness in terms.
But then the
regardless.
parents might tell their kids, well, you can't eat today because I don't have any money to pay for your lunch, because you have a collection agency harassing these people.
But don't we typically reach out to people initially?
Yeah, well, we've got to do a better job of it, because if we have deficits, big deficits now in the account, like you said, this year it's 20 plus, but we haven't really collected all the money yet, right?
Yeah, generally, there's a good influx towards the end of the year.
Can I ask a question just for clarification on the dollar amounts that were given? So the amounts for 2015, 2016, and 2017, those are what we ended up with as deficits after we got end of year bills paid?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
But there was still efforts to collect those monies even into the following year or subsequent years as well.
But did we collect any? I mean, is that the bottom line? All these deficits, or is it added on to the 20,000 this year?
It's per year.
The collections continue, so if a student had a $50 deficit at the end of 2015, we try to collect that in 2016,
Okay,
2017.
So it is like a
But does
cumulative
that
amount.
50, let's say the kid didn't pay it, is that 50 part of the new figure for 2016?
Yes.
You could-
No, it's a
So every
fresh
year
figure.
it's its own.
Stays on its own.
Its own deficit for that year, so
Yes.
so it is correct, we owe about 34,000 if you take the 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just ask a question? What's the highest one family might owe? I mean, because, and I agree that we need to get the money, but I think it's, if a family owes even $200 at the end of the year, do we really want to do collection agency for that? I mean, what's the highest? I mean, it could be a family of 5 that hasn't paid since middle school, but what is?
Well, 180 days at, $2 to $3 a day.
Do you have some that
Well, do you
have
have
never
somebody
paid?
that doesn't pay every day?
I don't have the list
I
in
think
front of
before
me.
we take any action, we need a better fact.
Yeah.
If it's 50, is it 100 people that each owe $2, or is one person owes 200? I think we have to have more facts before we make any kind of statements like this.
I would add to that, Mrs. Kabala, that I think it would be good to also have some kind of specific information about what a collection agency would do. Like, how do they go about their process? Maybe with even a sample of what they send to parents or something like that. so
I know,
the committee could
I'm
look at that.
against collection agencies no matter what.
Can I make a suggestion? I think that this would be a topic that we could bring into budget and finance and break this down a little bit more specifically to investigate all of these things and package it and come back to the committee. The point that I would bring is that I would really like to know in the procedures of how we do this, if we're taking adequate measures to encourage people that are in financial difficulties to be completing the application process for the free and reduced lunch, because that would benefit us, because we would still be feeding the child but still getting some accounting back from the federal government for it. Maybe you know, there are a lot of, and I have known people in town that have been in those financial circumstances that will not fill out the application for it, but maybe we need to improve our process, that we might be able to streamline some of these families out. But I can understand Mrs. Antosi's point if there's just, you know, an unwillingness to pay for people who can't afford it. So I think we need to really tease this down a lot more and come back to the committee, you know, hopefully in July or if not August, with some, this is the clarification of the procedures that we use, this is how we think we can enhance the procedures to reduce the amount of unpaid bills, and then look at it as to the possible approaches, if it's a collection agency or if it's, we're just gonna continue with how we are. So I think it's something that we could look at in budget and finance.
And if there's one person that really owes a lot, like $300, you can look at it to see maybe they qualify for.
Correct.
The reduced lunch.
Right, we might not be able to collect the debt, but we might be able to prevent further debt from
Right,
happening.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we should put that on the agenda.
So
We'll put that on the agenda and keep,
For us, I mean, for the budget.
Budget and finance, we'll take that up in July.
How many people is it really involved? Is it one family with 5 kids, or is it 5 families with 1?
Right.
You know, it's a big difference here.
Absolutely.
If you guys could let me know exactly.
Of having classroom adoptions of either another community locally or internationally, and communicating back and forth with them. And also incorporating global awareness into our morning messages as part of our responsive classroom. And also planning a cultural event. We want to have a cultural event identifying the countries that our students come from and really showcasing them.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next are the middle schools.
Dudley comes first and Dudley-Charlton, so Dudley first. Thanks very much for allowing us the opportunity to present our school improvement plan overview. This year, while my first year at Dudley Middle, it's been very clear that there are a lot of special happenings within the school. You know, as a parent in the community, I was able to experience them from the outside, but seeing them from the inside now as well, it's very clear that we get some very strong traditions. Some updates on the current school year's school improvement plan. Goal 1, communications, community engagement and partnerships. Really done a lot of focus with the outreach to the local support groups and networks for our students. Everything from Big Brother, Big Sister, to UInc, to Harrington Health Services, to provide some counseling and support services in the school day for kids and families, you know, to serve as a good community center. You know, in terms of expanding communication tools, establishing a school Instagram account, use of Twitter, use of Facebook to promote good, strong, you know, information flow out to parents and community, as well as use of the community portal to get parents used to the online grading access in the grade book. Goal 2, climate, culture, and civility. Continuing to promote the idea of civility and respect, where all staff and students are empowered to pursue personal, academic, and professional goals. Being able to lead team activities at the grade level, interdisciplinary teams, as well as whole school. Bringing in the idea of the inclusive practices handbook from DESE to meet the needs of all students across our school, from our
academically challenged, to our language learners, right through our students who are disabled, through some of our higher end, and gifted students, thinking of ways that we can meet their needs. Curriculum instruction and assessment, we've undertaken a variety of projects this year related to curriculum mapping in mathematics, looking at the new science, technology, engineering standards, and finding ways to introduce project-based learning and problem-based learning, and undertaking a relationship with Shepherd Hills English Language Arts program. And this is a Charlton Middle combination, grades 7 through 12 writing program, to create a really strong, vertically articulated writing program so our students can become stronger writers by the time they become seniors. And then, in that vein, making sure that we've got a solid foundational support system for our struggling learners within our ACES program at Dudley Middle, really looking at ways that we can address the social emotional needs of the kids as well as the academic in an alternate setting during the school day to help provide them some one-on-one or small group support. So it's been a very successful and busy year, and we could go into many more updates. With the new district strategic plan, though, this coming school year's SIP for Dudley Middle will really focus on the goals within the district strategic plan. Goal 1, technological literacy. We'll be looking to have a strong connection between Dudley Middle and Charlton Middle in terms of faculty meetings. We'll continue the work with virtual leadership team meetings, where my leadership team and Mr. Packard's leadership team can communicate about big ideas through Google Hangout, where we won't be in the same room, but we will be on the TV screen. We'll be looking to expand use of the Google Classroom apps. At all interdisciplinary team classes at Dudley Middle next year will share and disseminate information, and hopefully even be accepting student work across the board, but at least all classes will be involved. Parent education, the student support team next year will be hosting a parent night, probably in the format of a professional forum, or watch possibly a current movie about the use of technology and the impacts that it has on our developing adolescents. And
What facts you're looking for, I can make sure to have those available.
Well, that's what I would say,
I think
break down
how much, like,
what each family owns.
Right.
And how many kids that involves.
Unique users. It could be one family with 5 children, or it could be one person with one debt. So I think it's good to know. It's also, I think if you break it down by building, we have buildings that we know that have a higher percentage of economically disadvantaged people. And if the debt is higher in that building, maybe we haven't reached all of the families in that particular building versus, and then if it's a lot of small amounts of money, or if there are big pockets of money, and maybe we set a threshold of if the debt is over $300, then maybe we would look to try and collect on that. I don't know. So
Jamie, did you have something?
I guess I agree with everything that you guys are saying. The only thing that I'd like to know is what the process is to try to recoup that money currently before we look at a company that comes in and does it. Are we only sending letters? Do we make phone calls? Do we have, is it something that the principals are aware of, so that if I run into a principal in the hallway, they can say, hey, did you get my message? We're still looking for that money. I guess I don't know that enough of the process. I'd like to know what the standard is currently. Is it carried the same through every school?
We do have a policy that sets it up.
I can attest, being a parent, we owe right now $28. And, well, I can say that, but I put $100 on the account, and, but I have gotten 2 letters. I am paying it, I promise. But they do reach out, and they do tell you,
Via letter?
Via letter. And I think I've gotten an email. But yeah, they do reach out, and it's just saying, you're coming up to your threshold of being 0, and then, so yeah, it happens. And as a parent,
it happens, because I know my dental hygienist told me the same thing.
Right, and and it's just like, and I get like the end of the year, you kind of like go, okay, and then you pay it, but and I'm one of them. But but it never goes over like $30, okay? But I am, that's why you'll get all those end of the year. But yes, there is letters that come home, and they just,
But Mary,
they're
my
very
pet
nicely
peeve
written.
is I just want everybody to eat
Right.
for free, because when I
That'd be
first
awesome.
started teaching, there were starving kids, and it broke my heart, and I still can think about that, because they never had free and reduced lunch. And I just figure, kids have to eat to learn, and I don't even want to harass their parents for the money. If it's such a, it is a small amount. We have a $50 million budget, and it's really paying ourselves back, and we're really going to probably make it in the reserves. So when we do have the bad debt, it's going from one account to the other. And it's for food. I feel it's just an investment.
Well, and I think that if we look at it holistically too, and like communicate if we have a family that has a high debt, if we're communicating that with our principals, that could then work with the nurses to maybe we need to do some family outreach, that maybe they need more services within the community that we could be giving them.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So I think we'll start, that's a good start with the budget committee. We need more information on that.
If I may, just 2 points. I think Mr. Chaplin's changes to the handbooks are some of the things that we can do without, being overly burdensome to families, but making it clear that, this is a priority and it is a teaching moment. Additionally, the building principals do have a level of capability of, working with families to help ensure that they have the free and reduced application process and, can actually complete that in some cases, on their behalf if they know certain information, so.
Just as a final point, I think, just to point out that we've been seeing consistently on several of our schools that have been receiving donations from private citizens to help pay cafeteria debts for people that they know probably are not in a position to do that. So I think it's just a greater awareness in our communities that there are people that have need. And I agree. I appreciate Mrs. Iantossi bringing this up, because I think it's a situation of separating out need versus people that just aren't paying their bill. And I think that's what we can tease out in budget and finance.
And there's some proud people that don't, like
Absolutely.
you said, want
Absolutely.
to fill out the.
But we might be able to help supplement those people by your point, Mrs. Carmignani, about reaching out to social agencies within the community.
Hold a panel discussion for parents, and we'll go ahead and we'll stream that live so folks can access it, in the hopes that parents can get the information that they desperately need to keep up with the changing technology. And as a parent of a soon-to-be 9th grader and a new 5th grader next year, it will be helpful for me as well. Under the areas of critical thinking and problem solving, continuing to work on the implementation of project-based and problem-based learning. As a mathematics ambassador for DESI and WPI this year, along with Karen Ayers, who is a STEM ambassador, we're undertaking a work with a task development team comprised of teachers. I'm working with grades 4 through 8. Ms. Ayers is working grades 5 through 12 in STEM to develop high-level performance tasks that students can learn through, as opposed to have teachers teach. It'll be an interesting way for us to delve into project-based and problem-based learning. The mathematics team will continue to work on the curriculum mapping process that we started this year and really get down into the weeds of what it is we're teaching and how we're teaching it. We'll be implementing a financial literacy model in 6th grade advisory, much like we do with DARE right now. With the rotation of students, so all students will be able to go through a financial literacy component in 6th grade. That's going to be brought in through our Title I program. Our Title I teacher has the information, and we'll work with our team teachers to implement that during their advisory time. Moving on to Goal 3, empathy, initiative, self-direction, and resiliency. No offense to Charlton Middle, what better school hits the idea of empathy and initiative than Dudley Middle? We have a really strong handle on what kids need and how they need it. But we'll continue to expand student organizations around the idea of service and ethics of service to address all various developmental levels of our kids. look at ways for our staff to teach kids some additional life skills in terms of study skills, use of G Suite tools or Google tools to help kids stay organized and stay on task, organize long-term projects, so on and so forth. Effective communication and global awareness, really honing in on some of the tools that we currently have in place, such as the use of CNN10, which is specifically mentioned in the strategic plan as a tool, but to be able to identify various news resources related to a CNN10 topic and have various student groups during the same class look at that topic and have some discourse about how the material might be presented differently, you know, from a news station in Oregon versus a news station in Tennessee versus CNN, and engage in some discourse about, you know, the news story, how it's being disseminated, and then go ahead and teach the kids how to have some good solid dialogue about meaningful topics. And we're interested in looking at, and here it's referenced as a potential for a speech team as a co-curricular activity. We introduced a math team, which will continue next year. The idea of introducing additional academic co-curriculars to help extend and expand student opportunities, you know, which can trickle right on up to the high school at a debate team level or some additional components there. So.
You done?
Thank you.
Did you leave anything for me?
Sorry, I was looking at the time. You told me 17 minutes.
Needless to say, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about Charlton Middle School and our school improvement plan. On behalf of my school council, we put a lot of time and effort into looking at the existing plan that we had in place and to see where we could make modifications and adjustments to continue to grow and to continue to change our craft. Some of the notable achievements that we had from this past year is we had an implementation of a screening program known as ESPERT, another state unfunded mandate that had to be put into place in regards to 7th grade students, where all 7th grade students were screened with an evidence-based practice by trained faculty to identify and reduce problematic use of dependence, alcohol dependence, and illicit drugs. In addition to that, we implemented an SOS, signs of suicide in the middle school, for prevention and initiative and screening. We were able to identify and help students identify warning signs of depression to ensure for themselves and others and how they could identify risk factors moving forward. We've also taken great pride in our peer-to-peer academic friendship mentoring programs that we've had in place. We have willing 7th graders working with 5th graders, and we have 8th graders working with 6th graders. This is all done during advisory time to utilize the time during the school day to provide peer models for one another, whether it's academic or social. The grade 7 and grade 8 National Junior Honor Society students continue to do volunteer efforts. They tutor as well. They have a program where they go to the Heritage School, and they go down and they work with the elementary school kids. We take great pride in that. School-wide end-of-the-day learning sessions are advisory time. We're always looking to tweak and adjust to
These that might be able to help those families as well.
Okay. So the next is acceptance of future foreign exchange students, and Mary, that was something more.
Okay, and again, in the vein of helping our very tight, always tight budget, my overriding question is why we're not charging foreign exchange students tuition to come to our schools. Although I see the benefit of having international students here and the interaction between our students and the international students, we do have situations already that we ask for full tuition for students to attend our schools, and I don't think it would be out of the realm of possibility to charge the same amount, the per pupil expenditure amount, for a foreign exchange student in the future.
And I agree. And Kathy, did we do that once before?
There was some kind of, a man came and spoke to us once, there's an actual agency that
Yeah, I remember
charged
that,
them
but,
to
yeah.
come, but nobody ever applied or something.
They didn't provide us any students over
Yeah.
the course of the first, it was 2 years. I think the second year of it might have been my first year as superintendent.
Yeah.
And so we just didn't renew the agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we could try it again because it is worthwhile to
But I'm not sure Mrs. Antossi isn't speaking about maybe like the school committee setting something where that's what's gonna happen. Like if we take an exchange student, they have to be a junior, whatever other parameters there are.
Whatever
And we would
criteria.
Yeah,
charge
we could
them
do
as a
that.
district as opposed to finding an agency that does that. There are agencies, I believe, that do that. Our luck with them wasn't good. But, and I haven't looked into that, but there's those two different ways, and I guess are you saying either, or that we would do it
I
ourselves?
have a question. Are they considered part of our enrollment October 1st?
I don't think so.
No. Definitely
I-
not.
I-
Other
The
than
truth is,
double
Mrs.
dipping.
Cabela, I don't know the answer to that. I'm guessing no, but I don't know
We're getting
100%.
per pupil for them then.
Right.
We
Do you know
charge
the
them
answer to
twice.
that?
I do know.
Okay. We'll check
don't
into
think it
that
is, but
first.
Mrs.
That's
Rabb
an
doesn't.
That would be
important
good to
point.
know. I don't believe so, because they're an international student, they're not,
Right.
they're not,
But they're living in the town for that,
But-
I don't know.
they're not a resident of the community, they're
Do
a
they have a
guest.
SASID?
I'm sorry?
Would they have a like the school ID?
I don't know, I have, that's just my recollection from us looking at this issue a couple of years ago, that I don't believe they count for enrollment, but I think it's worthwhile. I need to go into my MASC conference information, because there was a company down at the conference that, was more actively, the company that came in 3 or 4 years ago was specifically a company that dealt with students that were coming in from Asia.
Yeah.
And the other company that I met at the conference dealt with more of an international base of students, so there is a possibility that we would have more opportunity. But I think, to Mrs. Antosi's point, and I believe that you've had some personal experience with foreign exchange students, that generally these are families. I think that, did you say there was a student that had paid, like, I don't know,
Like
$30,000
to come to the US.
to the agency?
Oh my gosh.
So if we were to set up a fee that we're just, well, you can come, you don't need an agency, come, we'll charge you.
We'll charge you.
Cheaper.
Cheaper,
Right.
that might be a possibility, because it seems like the families are paying a lot of money to an agency, and it's not filtering to the school district, so.
I just looked up Ms. Young's question on one of our foreign exchange students, and they do have SASIDs.
Okay.
So that.
Find time where we can have students help students regarding the situation that we're dealing with. We've also had an opportunity to have 2 full-time STEM classes were added to our overall schedule, giving multiple children an opportunity for problem-based learning to take place throughout their day, and that's in grades 5 through 8, including projects such as we had Krista McCullough Center for 5th grade, moon mobiles that were built, a night of expedition to Mars, robotic lessons, science club. All these projects, they come in very handy for children as they navigate through the learning process. We had a multiple of speakers come in to talk about many different topics: kindness, internet safety, how to reduce stress, strategies, drugs, alcohol, positive choices, self-esteem. In addition, we expanded our foreign language opportunities for kids through Rosetta Stone, giving approximately almost 200 children an opportunity to explore foreign languages in French and Spanish. Community service projects. We too have an initiative with the police who are at our building every morning greeting the kids when they come in. The CMS students and families worked collectively to bring in more than 3,000 cans or items of food, over 625 pieces of clothing, 563 toys, and over $9,000 was raised for local and global donations. In addition to that, we continue with our community service projects and volunteering activities, which included, not limited to, an intergenerational club that was made this year that worked with the senior center at the town hall. They had an opportunity to work with local seniors, a great opportunity for kids to be outside of school, to get down to the town hall and be part of that community. We also started an initiative called Chip In, where we had students go down to our local food pantry and pack boxes for families in need. It's a great opportunity there as well. We also had volunteer opportunities with the Adam Dowell Scholarship Fund, the American Cancer Society, Charlton Chip-In, as I said, Earth Day celebration, CMS Helping Hands toy program, a Leukemia and Penny Drive, Masonic Home Angel Fund gifts, National Junior Honor Society donation gifts. It just keeps going and going. And it takes something like this to realize, when you start listing all the things that you do, how much actually goes on at a school and how many things that kids are involved with. It's absolutely phenomenal to see the effort that's put forth by faculty and students. Coming into this year's strategic school improvement plan, we're going to be focusing on 8 goals. We're going to consistently look at community involvement and how we can make that better, mental health awareness, integration of technology into teaching and into the classroom practice, Further enhancement of communication. For those at Charlton Middle School now, they know that we have the parent e-news that goes out every week, so the parents know what's going on. We have the Twitter Friday forecast. As long as Mr. Olson and I don't get caught up, that normally goes out at about 9 a.m. in the morning, where parents can actually put a question on Twitter live while we're actually forecasting what's going on. We had the middle years this past year, so a lot of different platforms that we're going to continue to work on. We're also going to be looking at understanding diversity and backgrounds, continue with our partnerships, looking at volunteerism and service learning as an important item for all students, to continue to look at civility and respect, and the effective systems of intervention, supports, and enrichment for all students. We'll also be looking to adding a financial literacy component to our exploratory classes, as well as to enhance our present Google platform that we have done a wonderful job with transparency, sharing, and connecting on both sides of the district. Man.
Very good, Bo.
There's a lot going on. Any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. And Shepherd Hill.
Invite me up, I'm coming.
Shepherd Hill, here we come.
The lonely high school principal.
Not at all. I wanted you to sit in the blue chairs to get a feel. You know, you're in the comfy chairs. You stole these out of the conference room. No.
We found ourselves that we didn't like those.
Listen, I can very happily get the old ones we're going to be throwing out and get them back over
We
here.
don't want to throw out those old ones.
Oh, no, we're not throwing them
They're
out.
nice, they're wooden, they're 40 years old, they're antiques.
They're about, we definitely got our money's worth out of that. Okay, so mine is, if you remember last year, I presented and I didn't mark it down here, but last year we wrote 2-year goals. Okay, so you're not going to see a lot of change to the actual document, but I am going to report on how some reflecting about each goal that we had. So, goal 1 around communication, community engagement, and partnerships. You've heard a little bit about Shepherd Hill students getting down to within the district at the Mason Road and Dudley Middle and Bold Middle. Just some highlights in terms of our wonderful Envirothon team, who is incredible and expands every year, and they're so passionate about it. They've done probably 2 or 3 workshops at each of the middle schools as well as the community, and that's really expanding into next year. They've already started on the quad area out here, and there's probably 3 or 4 different groups that are really going to transform that space. If you look out the window, the dish is no longer there. It's probably been there. We're talking to the moon around here. So we definitely tried to expand, get our world language students down to DMS and CMS to give those kids some face-to-face time that we're just doing Rosetta Stone. We're going to continue with that. Our rotating schedule it works against us with that, but we did get down there several times to continue to do that. We at CMS, I know Dean didn't mention it, but they had a great mock town meeting for their students, which was wonderful. One of our Shepherd Hill student representatives on the Charlton BOS kind of spearheaded that. We really increased our bridge building with helping providers. It was one of those lacking areas where we have 2 adjustment councils in the building, and they really did a lot of bridge building with Harrington Hospital and several other agencies. We had an agency in Worcester, Community Health Link, that was coming in and providing outpatient services here for students in the building, and it was only a 10-month. They would just drop them every summer. So we met with them and we said, that's really not what we're trying to do. We're trying to really create a bridge so they can get outpatient providers quickly and keep them beyond the school year. Start here and continue in the community. So we've done a lot of work. Harrington Hospital, we've probably met with almost every leader there to talk about continued expansion of that. I think next year we're going to have 3 Harrington outpatient counselors in the building to work with some students and as well as some family work. We continue to kind of expand along the same lines and really create some face-to-face connections with DCYF, and really, because every time we have a crisis and we need their support, it's just been a phone call. So we've had a lot of face-to-face meetings with them to kind of build some bridges with them as well as the Dudley court system through our SRO, Officer Megas. And we had one of the judges from the district court come in and do a talk to many of our students. And it's really going to expand next year, as you'll see in some of the goals of we're going to create a criminal justice pathway similar to the STEM and global, because there's been a lot of interest around that. So we're looking forward to expanding that a little bit more with Nichols College coursework, Dudley PD, and Dudley District Court. The last community, really, the highlight is we were asked at the beginning of the year to become part of the Blackstone Valley Education Foundation as an associate member. And it really was beneficial for us. They have things throughout the year that get guidance departments together and various schools together and talk about common goals around how do we increase students that are interested in the manufacturing fields and the construction fields and so forth. I went to one of the events they had at Considerably Construction in Milford, and it was a day-long event, and they talked about how many of the union houses in the area are going to be without students and workers within the next 3 years, because everyone's going to college, which is a great thing. So how do we create bridges there too? So from there we made great connections, and our guidance department's doing some bridge building with all the union houses around here to get those students that don't want to go to college or they don't want to take on the debt. I heard a lot of kids, students this year talk about, I really don't want to take on the debt. I'm going to try, working for a year or so. And if we can have those connections in all the union houses, the problem is, whether it's masonry, carpentry, whatever it is, you work. And I have to explain that to the students. When it snows out, when it rains, you're out there working. That was a lot of the feedback we got from the representatives from there, that it's really, they're finding a little bit of a mentality where, I don't really feel like working that hard. They're going to start feeling it in the next 2 or 3 years. So that's been a great collaboration. And the other one we've done at a couple of the manufacturing companies in the area in the Blackstone Valley. Really, we went down, we were able to take students with us, and they really talked about these are the skills that we're looking for to come and work here. And students were able to hear that, guidance was able to hear that. So it's been great connections around that, and we really look forward to continuing that with them. And it's free, there's no charge to it at all, which is an added bonus. Strategic Goal 2, Climate, Culture, and Civility, just some surface level reflection. We worked really hard this year at one of our goals to have a unified sports team next year. I'm happy to say that we're going to have a separately unified sports team in the fall, starting with basketball. So that's a team where disabled students and non-disabled students form one team, practice together a couple times a week, and then compete against other unified teams from the area. This year we did a lot of planning, meeting with the MIAA, meeting with other schools and the Unified Sports Coalition, and we're going to be ready to go in the fall in September with basketball. So it'll be basketball, it'll be bocce, it'll be, there's like 3 or 4 things that they're recommending that we start with. And you always want to try to make it in the off season so we can have basketball players play in the fall with that. So that's it's going to be unbelievable. Our advisories, we continued to expand and specialize them this year. Our game changers that went and got trained to do through the Patriots organization to talk about domestic violence and so forth. Had a great run this year talking to the freshman advisory, but they're a core group of about 30 to 35 people. I think they're going to plan on going down to the middle school as well. Our Envirothon has turned into an advisory where they meet twice a month during the school day. And really the point of advisory is really to make connections with adults and students in the building. So we're going to looking at specializing those as well to kind of, the Envirothon is a great example because the 2 leaders are so passionate about it that they're creating deep love in our students for environmental science, and it's showing. We got recognized at the State House this year as one of the model programs, as well as the increase in students that are going on and studying environmental science at the post-secondary level. We increased our voter registration movement, as always. There has been a big push this year to just inform 16 and 17-year-olds that you can pre-register. You can fill out all the paperwork now and get it in, and you'll be all set. The last piece around this is, we're active part of the I was an active part of the equity committee within the district, and it really allowed us to take a deeper dive into our curriculums to look at where there's some inequities in terms of the curriculum and so forth. So that was a great thing that we did as well, and we're going to continue to do. Curriculum instruction and assessment, goal 3. Like Chris said, really successful 7 through 12 writing program committee that met throughout the year, and really the end result has been a nice binded manual and roadmap for our 7 through 12 teachers to kind of guide content writing, and it's been a direct result of a lot of hard work across the district. We're going to kind of use that same model to look at our world language department. They're kind of at a crossroads, and we're going to include the middle school instructors moving forward. We did it this year to really define who they are and what we want to be moving forward. It's hard facilitating a French program here when there's no French feeders in the middle school. So it's limping along, but we're going to try to kind of infuse that a little bit. We're going to do some, next year we're going to move into doing some strategic visits to the middle school with French students, AP French students, and our teacher Boris Bakoum, who's also a wonderful musician, and go down there strategically to kind of develop an interest in the French program. Virtual high school was very successful this year. You got some examples there of some of the courses that we students successfully completed: AP French, Criminology, Nuclear Science, Video Game Design, Personal Finance, U.S. Government, and Pre-Vet. We had our first cohort of GAP and STEM students successfully graduate this past year. Wonderful to see develop and grow, and we're really looking forward how that grows moving forward into other presentations, TED Talk-like presentations on certain subjects. They all did their capstone projects this year that you heard before from Mr. Destro reporting back here. But it was wonderful to see really students taking a real-world look at problems or issues and really kind of define some pathways around how to solve some of those problems. It was really good. Our Project Lead the Way continues to expand. We're offering our second course in the biomedical field next year. There was a lot of great interest this year from the biomedical courses we offered this year, where there's really a wait list to get into that course, for next year. So exactly what we want. The criminal justice certificate pathway I talked about earlier, and then several of our departments are doing a deeper dive into the curriculum. Obviously, history with the potential of the law changing, and more civic projects being put in there. A possible history MCAS coming down the road. We don't really know about that, but this year our history department head and several teachers really did a collaborative effort with other schools in the Midwalk around planning for that, which has been great. Math and ELA are doing the same thing around the potential shift and adjustments we have to make around MCAS, going totally electronic next year, and that's it. Is that quick enough?
That's a lot.
I mean, Chris would still be up here if you didn't talk him.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm really excited to see the criminal justice pathway because I noticed in our graduates that we had quite a few graduates
Yeah.
that are going into criminal justice.
Yeah, and Nichols is really working with us around creating some, not only business law, but some other kind of forensic type of coursework. And some of our staff went there today. They were doing some marketing and so forth, and they're willing to come over here and pick up our kids and take them over there for the class period. I was like, what? That's great. But hopefully that'll continue to expand.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Courtney, may I make a comment?
Go ahead.
I promise I'll be brief. I know we have a lot of work left tonight. It really wasn't my initial intention, but this turned into a really, to me anyway, an encouraging exercise to find out what progress was made this year, all the amazing things that are going on in the schools, and what work is carrying forward and what we have in store. And I don't know, our next meeting is June 27th. A lot of people go on vacation towards the end of the year, so I don't know how many of our principals will be here that night, and I want to be sure that everybody knows my opinion, that we have as good a principals as there are anywhere. And when I think about the things that I consider myself fortunate for as superintendent, our principals are near, if not at, the top of the list. I've worked with many of them as colleagues for several years and loved them in that regard. Some of you I hired myself, and I'm proud of that. But I'm very proud of all of you. And tonight, I think we all could see and feel how proud they are of their school. It's like, I want my kid going to their school. That's kind of how I feel, and so I want to make sure I send that commendation to them, because they work so hard and sometimes don't get enough recognition, and thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is consideration to approve 2018-2019 student handbooks. So we'll take the, did I skip something?
We're supposed to approve those school, it says vote.
Okay.
Vote to approve the
We
school
do,
improvement
we
plans.
vote
Make a
for
motion
it.
to approve all the school improvement plans presented tonight.
Discussion.
Just want to reiterate all the work, not only from the staff, but from the parents and everyone involved. They're really
It was good.
They're really comprehensive.
And I have letters here that we're going to send out to the
people.
So, thank you. And they did an excellent job on the improvement plans. Next on the agenda is the,
I'm sorry, Ms. O'Connor, is a motion to approve the school improvement plans?
we're falling asleep. It's going to be a long night, too. Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous. Okay. Consideration to approve the 2018-2019 student handbooks. So we have the middle school and Shepherd Hill. So the middle school can come up with the corrections or additions to the handbook.
Thank you once again. I'm going to exercise my right to go before Mr. Starcheski this time. I'm going to, seniority card, I guess.
Guess what? I'm from Dudley.
All right, we
Mr.
won't.
Packett's covering Dudley
We
and
won't do
Charlton.
that. We'll do both of them tonight at once. We only have 3 changes we want to bring to the committee's attention tonight. First of which is on page 13 and 14 under the section of grading. We're asking for consideration of moving the ability for foreign language to be a numerical grade, as it will help in the transitional aspect of going, the transition to high school. So we can actually have that numerical grade in place. So when we're looking for sections for high school, we'll be able to have a complete setting of where children are. It'll help the foreign language teacher create a learning environment that will be probably as conducive as any other core area. And we went to all 40-minute blocks, being the alpha grade, which is the 4 categories of passing with excellence, passing, needs improvement, or failure. But this will give her core, so both courses at Dudley Middle School and Charlton Middle School, that bite that it needs in order to make that content really come alive for kids. Not to diminish what we have with the Unified Arts and where they're at and what they're doing. It's a different learning style for the kids at that opportunity. So we're asking for consideration for that. The second one on page 2 is the elimination of gum chewing in school. I think that we've had this battle going for the last umpteen years, and every child has a piece of gum in their mouth in some capacity somewhere during the day. We have found that it does help to relieve anxiety during testing, so we make concessions there. We're just looking to remove it from the handbook as it's stated, and we'll use our discretion to make decisions based upon when it's used appropriately or not, if that's okay. And the third individual thing that we're looking for on page 14 and 15 of the handbook is just a guideline for parents for keeping sick children home from school. I think it makes a clear path for parents to understand what the nurses have to deal with, and it's broken down for you here so you can read all of the important information, but this will give parents a clear understanding of expectations for when children need to be home.
Okay, and that's it?
That's
for
it,
that?
just
Okay.
3.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the changes to the Dudley Middle School and Charlton Middle School handbook. Okay, I have a second. Any discussion?
Just in relation to foreign language, is the grade applicable to students that are in a classroom with a teacher and those students that access foreign language through Rosetta Stone?
So moving forward next year, we're going to look at some creative ways to utilize the Rosetta Stone in a different fashion. So yes, it would be directly a correlation to the student teacher for the class than it would be for Rosetta Stone if they so choose to go that route. It's a great clarifying question.
Any other questions?
I have more of a comment. I think it gives the kids more incentive to do well in that class, so
It does.
I think that's important.
I believe I didn't do that 12 years ago.
Okay, all
Set.
in favor? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And now the Shepherd Hill handbook.
Should've just stayed.
No.
Okay, so again, there's some tweaking in here of words and looking for your feedback. So the way we did it is similar as last year. What was in there currently and what we're proposing really is in the red. This year I printed out colored copies because last year, remember, I was going, but it's in here in the red and you guys had all black. So the first ones are on food and beverages in the academic area. We're just expanding some language in there. We're seeing some upward trends of parents coming in throughout the day. And it's not Susie and Johnny's brown bag lunch. They forgot their lunch and bringing a brown bag lunch. It's morphing into dropping off a couple of coffees for my child and their friend. And we're busy in the office, and it's hard to do that. So we're just kind of massaging a little language in here about you can drop stuff off, but we really want you to kind of look at it and certainly encourage to bring and drop off brown bag lunch for their child, and then just kind of reduce class disruptions. Students are not allowed to come down during their non-lunch hours. Main office is not responsible for any food or God forbid, a coffee gets knocked over. And students really, we've seen a little bit of an uptick of students and parents just ordering out. And I was like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Well, where is it in the handbook? I'm going to put it in there, I said. So moving forward, the food delivery is going to get turned away unless I particularly like it, and I might take it in my office. So you see the rationale there. We really don't want coffees being dropped off during the day, and it's okay. Well, if even I don't even want lunches dropped off. I'll buy you a lunch. It's not a big deal. But I have to kind of start somewhere. So that's really the rationale behind there. Parking on school grounds. We're just adding some language in there in the red, and it's really about senior year, the month of April and May. I am dealing with large bills that people owe from the last 4 years. So are we trying to figure out how to strategically kind of just get to this before I'm pulling my hair out and going, I started here with dark hair. You remember that, Elaine. We're adding in language about you got to be in good financial standing to even, because the big ticket as a senior is you want your parking ticket, your parking spot to pay for it. So if you're coming up with 200 bills for the parking spot, you need to be in good financial shape if you owe dues from the last 4 years. So we're adding this language now that you got to be in really good financial standings. And I'm willing to work with anybody, honest to God. But it just got so ridiculous this year that people had very large bills. And
Is it mandatory, though, to pay your class dues?
What's that?
Is it mandatory to pay class dues?
Yeah. I mean, if you want to be in good standing, it's not a lot. It's doing fundraising. The dues is $25.
Yeah, but I mean, how can you make that mandatory?
Say what? I didn't hear you. What?
I said, how can you make that mandatory to pay a class dues?
Well, I mean, how do we make it mandatory as an adult? Honestly, we're trying to build skills, and if anyone has struggles with paying their class dues, we work with them, okay? But it's the ones that just don't do it, and I'm not going to do it. And it goes towards, the 4 years really goes towards the prom, all those senior year activities. They got to build up a certain amount of money. So year after year, when I've only been here 2 years, last year I had kids coming to me with $1,000 bill, and I'm not going to be able to graduate. Of course you're going to walk. We'll have to figure this out. Now, some of that was music and not paying fees in music for the 4 years, but this is a beginning point to kind of do that. Dues are part of your responsibility. My son's a sophomore. My daughter just graduated. She had to pay her dues every year to be a part of the activities that are going on. Though that small amount of dues. Now, most of the time, you can get by with your dues by doing the fundraiser. Kids are just saying, I don't feel like doing the fundraiser. So, again, I'm not saying everybody, there's a large population that does this, but the 20 or 30 or 40% that aren't doing it is growing, and it really creates a lot of headaches down the road.
I guess my question just is, this is a public school, can we really, if a kid doesn't want to pay class dues, can't they just pay for everything, like the senior, don't get any supplemental payment on the yearbook or something? I mean, as a public school, can we really force a kid to pay a due? Because that's not part of public school. I've had this argument years ago, and I decided to stop fighting
And we,
it, but.
we always had this argument.
Because I don't see
but-
how I know it goes to the prom, but what if the kid just says, I want to pay for the full price of the prom, I don't want to be supplemented by my class dues, do we allow that?
Well, the prom tickets this year were $60.
Yeah, if I
So
want-
if we have to have a tiered system, a prom ticket for the kid who hasn't paid it, it's gonna be probably about $180.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
But what's the difference?
But
If you
because
pay
they
it-
don't have, we're not forcing them to go to the prom, but we're forcing them to pay the dues. That's my only I'm throwing it out there just for discussion, because we are a public school, and I don't think we really can force a kid to pay class dues, can we?
I mean, there,
I would probably say, in the court of law, you probably can't.
I know.
Maybe I could suggest that anytime you have to say must be in good financial standing, you might maybe just add something that gives you a little bit more administrative discretion. It might say something like in good financial standing, or have, this is not the way you'd put it, but or have worked with an administrator on an alternate plan, or something like that, where I don't know what you would do, but like you said, if they come to you in good faith and say, Mr. Chaplain, we're really struggling and we really can't do it, that kid is never going to be turned away.
we'll always figure something out.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of activities that go with that. Are there gonna be a few that say, I don't wanna go, but then that kid, you can't have a parking spot? You know what I mean? We really have to kind of look at it that way. And you guys can give me feedback and I can
I
modify
don't
things.
agree with that about the class dues and the parking spot. Because they're
This
paying
is
for.
what it says here, if you're not in good financial thing, you can't get a senior parking spot.
Well, maybe it's anything except for the dues. Financial
think just
standing
say-
as in
just-
books,
Books,
lunch
I wouldn't even
accounts,
stipulate what
anything
financial, I
else
just
that
I
they
would
should
take the
have paid.
parentheses out and just say, in good financial standing, you can use your own discretion.
So take the parentheses out, is that what
I
you're
would
saying?
say take out class dues and the books,
Those are just examples.
right, I'd just leave them out and just say financial standing.
Through the chair, the fact that you commented on so many things along the line related to this, my question was going to be more on, are we creating the proper financial awareness and literacy if kids are overextending themselves? And taking class dues aside, but if you have students that are participating in activities with an IOU, and then they get to the end and now they have all of these fees built up for things that they've participated in, but they haven't planned to pay for. I think part of it is, a continuation of what we would be as parents doing at home, which is teaching our children. You can only spend what you can afford unless you have created other arrangements. That was kind of how I interpreted, if kids are overextending themselves to those great fees,
Sure.
then, is this part of something that if we're not giving enough information to students ahead of time to judge and prepare for things, then maybe that's something that we can improve, going into this year. These are what the things are. We have, obviously we help people that have financial implications, but.
Yeah, that's not the issue.
The food at the office and all of these things are not necessarily, to me, those issues. They're more an understanding of adult responsibilities, which is what we're starting to look for our high school students to be doing.
Yep. Is there a policy on dues, is a school committee policy on dues? Because then how did it come about then? How long has it been going on?
It's always been way back, even when I went to school.
It is a-
We didn't have in the Worcester Public
We had
Schools, we
it.
had no dues.
But we did.
We didn't.
I didn't have that where I was.
No, I never had dues.
You have dues?
I did.
Yeah, I would say, my daughter just graduated, she had a very low due, it was the same every year. My son has dues every year that he has to pay, or has fundraising opportunities to make up for it. I think this is really about the kids that, don't wanna do anything, which is fine, but I worry about creating a two-tiered system, of you're gonna pay $60 for the prom, and you're gonna pay $260.
I don't think that's right either.
There's no way around it, because then all the other kids that paid their dues and did the fundraising throughout the years
Yeah.
to build up the kitty,
Right.
they should reap a benefit, and that's a valuable
And
lesson.
that's another thing, how can you can't force kids to fundraise either.
No, we can't.
No.
And we can't force them to go to Europe, but somehow they fundraise for that. You know what I mean?
Are the dues established by the class?
Yeah, it's not, they're $25.
So is it a set fee for all classes, all
Every year
grades,
they
or
do.
is it?
I'd have to look at it. I
You
think it's like $25. I think senior year it's $50, because there's a lot more things going on. But you don't have to pay the dues, you can just sell the 2 entertainment books, or whatever the fundraising is for that year. And there are many kids, and I'm always buying those damn things. I have a stack of them in my office. But, you know, I do think that we're losing a little bit of a life lesson here. And I'm all for it. If we want to get rid of class dues, you want to make a motion to get rid of class dues? I'm all for it. But I do think you're going to create a two-tiered system.
Things will be too expensive for the kids if we do that.
Absolutely it will.
But I think
Absolutely
that
it will.
you can solve a lot of this problem by simply adding a statement that says that if you're in any kind of difficulty financially, please just talk to us. That's not the wording, but something
Well,
like
that's already
that.
there. That's already there.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I know that at the school that I teach at, we have a hard time with students who don't return equipment, such as.
Same here.
Okay, so part of the things is that they kind of started putting that into it, that they couldn't buy a parking permit until they've returned all their uniforms and
Yep.
such like that.
Yeah, I
didn't
mean
know if
that.
you wanted to add that.
Sure, I mean, we wanted to put a couple of examples there, but that's all. There's quick categories. There's class dues. There's outstanding. It could be music. It could be it could be books. It could be locks. It could be anything.
So that
really.
falls under financial.
It falls under all of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Uniforms,
I think I would
obviously.
list those too, because there's so many.
I agree.
I would just take out the parentheses. What does the committee feel? Just say good financials, and you can use your discretion what that actually means.
As long as it's consistent from student to student.
Right, right.
Of course. Yeah.
I think it's better.
Okay.
Can I just ask also, I'm sure there's a statement within the handbook, but there's a statement that allows students to know that if they are, have any, financial difficulties, that, to please speak to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we do it all the time. Kids
Okay.
work here during the summer for, they make minimum wage and it goes towards their due. They have show choir, they have opportunities to work at Gillette after a certain age and earn money towards we're already doing that.
Okay.
PE, just an adjustment in terms of some wording to students who are required to successfully earn credit in 3 physical education classes. We're going from an every other day PE to every day PE for a whole semester. And that just kind of facilitates that a little
Do they
bit.
always have 3? Do they have to do 3?
Always had
before?
3. It
different
just,
schedule?
it was always 3, but it took longer doing it every other day.
Right. Plus it kills the rest of the week. I mean, this way they have a free second semester.
Yeah, yeah, you can, and we've expanded I know I talked about this last year, but we've expanded our electives in terms of PE, so there's gonna be a lot more opportunity. And the person that doesn't wanna take PE, they're not really that PE person, they can get it over with by their sophomore year, December of the sophomore year. Let's see, student fees. We added some language in there in the red about advanced placement courses. That's being driven by the Advanced Placement College Board. They want right now I think we were collecting them in the spring, and they shifted their focus in the last month or so and want all the fees collected in September. So that's all that's saying.
My question, what if a kid decides in March they don't want to take the test? Are you forcing them to still take it?
They're required to take the test here, and again, I can't force them to.
But then they wouldn't get their money back,
But they're
right?
expected to. Yeah, I mean, that's another added bonus, really, to be honest with you. I run into, not a lot, but there's been a handful of students that say, I don't really, that was something I didn't really, it was really hard, and I'm only getting a C, I'm not gonna pass the AP class anyway, so I don't wanna take it. And when I came here 2 years ago, it was a requirement that if you take the class, it's expected to you, because there's a lack of a motivation that goes down, especially in the sciences. So we talk about that every year because there's pros and cons to that. Our ratio would go very high of more qualifying scores, but as a school and as the team of leaders, we really want to value the experience of taking an AP class. And if you get a C, you get a C. It's okay. So we do talk about that every year.
My question is, what if a kid for some reason drops the course? I don't know what happens, or they got sick way behind. How can they get their money back? Do you deposit them?
They don't.
They lose it, no matter what happens, the money's gone.
Yeah, it already went to
It goes
AP
right, you
people.
send it right,
Yeah.
and you don't keep it like
Yeah.
it is.
No, we don't.
I didn't know if they wanted it early or not.
No, the AP wants it earlier.
They want it early.
This coming year is a new shift. Usually we would get it to them in March.
Right, that's what I thought.
Now they want it in September.
Can I clarify something?
Yeah.
The check that a parent would make out is to the AP, not to
Correct.
the school.
Correct.
Okay.
We hold it, and then we
you
get
send
it all
it all
together,
to
and
school.
we send them one check.
Right.
Just as a setup, it's kind of thrown in the middle of a sentence about the parking fee. Shouldn't it be separated?
Yeah, that'll just, it'll be moved down.
Okay, 'cause it's
Yeah.
kinda confusing.
It'll be a separate paragraph.
Okay.
Early dismissal. We've seen a little bit of an uptick, a large uptick, of parents just showing up at the door. My son or daughter texted me that I'm feeling well, I'm gonna dismiss them. No problem. I have to clarify that those are unexcused. If they're doing that in the morning, the rest of the day is unexcused. If they go through the nurse's office, those will be excused, okay? There's a big influx of people just kind of showing up, and that's okay, you don't have to, but we want to clarify that it's important that you, if you're sick, go through the nurse's office, and that'll be excused the rest of the day, because she's dismissing you after she assesses you. Now, sometimes they don't want to do that because they just have a little stomach ache and they could stick it out, So we've had an increase in parents that's coming to show up, and we say, oh, there's a nurse dismissing them. Oh, no, they just texted me. Okay. They go, but I need to clarify that it'll be unexcused the rest of the day in terms of the period attendance.
Can I ask you a
Yep.
question about that? So your concern is that you don't have faith that the parent is acting in good faith?
Not at all, not at all. Many times, students can stick it out, and they don't want to go to the nurse, or they just want to miss a class in the afternoon. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Because currently, can the kids sign themselves up, or the parent still has to come?
A kid can't sign themselves up.
Okay,
Yeah.
I went to a different high school, I'm
Yeah.
just asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not questioning it. The parent can come and do that every time if they want, but we have to kind of have some type of norm where if they're really sick, they need to funnel through the nurse's office and just check in. I'm not feeling well, I have a fever or whatever. At least get assessed. I'm trying to weed out the people that are just trying to get out and not sticking out the rest of the day, for whatever reason.
And I would say, Mr. Chaplin, you're being kind. There are a number of people who we see that essentially want to be friends with their child and will just, if the kid says, hey, I want to go home, okay, we're going home. And so that's okay because you're the parent and you can do what you want, except that absence will be unexcused versus the one that is more proven to be legitimate. So that's the purpose of it.
Yeah, and there's a slight uptick in kids being dismissed just for lunch. And I'm like, you can't do that. You only have 25 minutes for lunch. It takes you 10 minutes to get home, 10 minutes to get back. So there's a little bit of that, and that's being squashed too. And again, when I talk to parents, sometimes I get, well, I just didn't want to say no. And I'm like, but you have to. That's what you have to do sometimes. So that's that.
Thank you.
Do you have the policy that if it's an unexcused absence, they're not allowed to make up an assignment or an exam?
It varies. If it's a period and they're missing the rest of the day and they miss math, there is some language in there. If it's unexcused, they do not have to. The teacher does not have to. Many times they do work with the student, unless it's an ongoing pattern.
Right.
And then the teacher really squashes that.
Okay.
Next one was under general disciplinary procedures. All we do is add, at the advice of the tobacco and marijuana state committee, added some just language about, we did this last year too, but they really said you need to have an inhalant policy, and I'm like, I don't want to have an inhalant policy, because what if someone has a asthma puffer, and I don't want to have to, go there. So we're just kind of really clarifying vaping devices, vaping juuls, which is on the uptick, and really clarifying. We added the up to, because we want to have some discretion as administrators. We don't want to be held to a concrete day. So it was really the up to.
You skipped the top. On the top there was about class dues again.
Where?
Did you try to sneak that through, Mr. Chaplin?
No, what does it say? Where is it?
But before
At
we
the
move
top.
past that, I
Top
give you
class.
kudos for adding this inhalant. That's a really hard thing for local public health officials
Yeah, I know.
and schools to figure out, so I give you a lot of
It's
kudos
only
for
gonna
coming
get,
up with
that's
that.
only gonna get worse over the next couple of years.
That's great that you put it in there, though.
All right, did I skip something?
Top of the same page.
Students must be in good
Next to
standing. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped F on the previous page. F is extracurricular activities and requirements.
Yeah.
So students must be in good standing to participate in extracurricular activities. It's similar understanding around, being in good, because, listen, there's a couple major events that the students love, beyond the prom. I don't know why, but one is dodgeball. okay? God forbid I take dodgeball away from somebody, it's like taking their heart out of their chest. So we wanted to put something in there, we were talking about, are there other ways that we can kind of, besides the parking, you gotta be in good standing for some major events, homecoming, whatnot. I'm not really totally sold on that yet, but we really have to do something around being in good standing to do those major events, because I'll tell you, those kids go out and they spend money on great shirts and outfits and so forth. We gotta funnel some of that back, so I can take, similar to what you said in terms of class, forget about class dues.
I just want for my own benefit, what does good standing actually mean? Is that academically, discipline-wise, what do you mean by good standing?
Not really academically, I mean, if you're failing everything, we need to talk about, some things that you gotta do differently. Good standing in terms of discipline, those are really, it has to be ongoing issues, okay? You really use good judgment around that. We're not gonna take, that extracurricular activity might be the only thing that's going well in that student. And we would never take that away. So we do have some judgment around that in terms of just,
Kind
it's
of
really
vague,
common
but good
sense.
enough to cover it, yeah.
Right. But if someone's being suspended for the 4th time and it's right before dodgeball, or I will tell you, if someone, this happened this year, if someone gets caught being with poor behavior at an event, an away event or something, they are gonna lose several weeks of extracurricular activities. That's already in there. But for this, it was really about just being a good, that ongoing person who really doesn't, and they wanna go to dodgeball, they wanna go to some of the activities. It just gives us some extra leeway. We're not gonna abuse that, believe me.
Okay.
So no, I didn't try to sneak anything in there, Mr. Wow.
Just checking.
The last thing is something that I've talked about with my student advisory this year, and something I had at my previous school that we kind of want to pilot next year and see how it goes, and it's really around senior privileges. So the students that really work hard, that are in good standing, which is, really 85% of the building, 90% of the building. We want to kind of look at giving them some type of a reward. We are launching them into the world where there's some flexibility. So what we're thinking of doing is, starting in October, after the first progress report, to look at the kids that meet the qualifications, which is in good standing, no discipline issues and so forth. In the 7-day cycle, that rotating cycle that we have, if you have a study hall, it will land in the first period, 1 day out of that 7-day period, and at the end of the day, in that one time out of that 7-day period. We would allow those students to come in late when that happens, seniors, and leave at 1:20 when it happens in that 7-day cycle. So it's really 2 blocks in a 7-day cycle. Logistically, it can be a little bit of a nightmare. We're working out those details now about how do they sign out through the main office? Are they signing out? That only, if there's not many kids that have this, but it can only be used during one study hall. We're not gonna have kids taking 5 study halls so they can kind of not be here every morning and every afternoon. They have to pick, if they have more than one, which is very rare, they have to pick the study hall. And again, it will only be 1 time in the morning and 1 time in the afternoon where they're working hard and they're able to leave, or come in late.
We had that in Worcester 40 years ago. It's called Open Campus.
Yeah.
You could come in late, or you could leave early, as long
Yeah.
as it was,
Yep.
it was a study.
I don't want to go to open campus yet.
That's
You
what
know.
it was
My
called.
previous,
That was what it was
at my
called back
previous
then.
school, which as an administrator at my previous school, it was a nightmare. They added lunch in there. They could leave for lunch.
what a mess,
And
yeah.
it is a nightmare. I had to just go stand in the parking lot because I had some juniors sneaking out and whatnot. So I'm not in favor of that. But the beginning of the day and the end of the day, one time, I think that's a good place to start.
And really, in Webster, 2 years ago, they had open, and they called it open
called it
campus.
open campus.
Yep.
And it didn't work out.
Yeah. Yes.
No, it didn't.
Going back to the first
But this is
piece
fun.
regarding the food and beverages in academic areas.
Yep.
How do you handle students that might be on health plans or
Oh,
have?
yeah, this is not about food in the classroom or whatnot. If you, I would say the majority of our students, if you need a water, especially on the 3rd floor this month, you can have a water with you.
Okay.
If you need a snack, have a snack with you. Kids that are on health plans, it's carte blanche. They can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
This is about parents bringing in the coffee. Let's be honest. Okay.
We were saying, I think you need a parent handbook, not a student handbook.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so, I'll entertain a motion to approve the,
Might clarify some of the state assigned student ID numbers.
Thank you.
So
what would that?
But does that still count for our per pupil expenditure?
We don't know, that's still, that's still
enrollment
gonna be
data,
determined.
and I felt like if the student had a SASD, they were included for enrollment, but I'm not totally
Because
sure
that
of that.
goes to the state.
Because it goes to the state.
But
It's
they're,
just a piece of the puzzle, I'm not entirely sure the
Okay,
answer.
we'd have
so
to find
yes.
that answer.
all, so the thing is, all students, they all have SASs, but they're coded
Right.
differently.
Okay.
As, you know, you could have a school choice code, you could have a, I don't know if there's an international one, but, you know.
That's it.
So you could have, like, for example, we have in our collective bargaining agreement that employees' children can come here and they're coded differently. So we'll have to look into it, but we could probably have an answer very quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure you can find it.
But getting back to your question, I don't necessarily think that we need to go searching for an agency that would pay. I think that there are families that may just contact us and want their student to be enrolled here, and they may pay direct. So, you know, if, depending on what the answer to that other question is, we may want to explore
Okay.
that.
Well, I'll get the answer to the Chapter 70 question.
And then we can still work on this to see how we go about getting foreign exchange students directly to us.
Right.
If it's not,
Do they have to
instead of
go through-
going through an agency.
Do the agencies have to set up the host family?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I think they usually do, but it's not
Unless there's like a
necessary.
maybe repeating
Unless
kid who's been here.
They just know somebody.
I got you.
Mr. Destro, I think we could have our principals included in their global connection virtual reality to have a little promo at the bottom. We're advertising for
That's right.
foreign exchange students.
Come to Dudley.
Contact us directly.
Those kids are going to Weston. Just telling you, if you want my input, you know, it really does go against our strategic plan. I mean, we're gonna start charging families and recruiting families. That's more work. And I will tell you, those families that are willing to pay are gonna go to Weston, they're gonna go to Wellesley, they're not gonna come to Shepherd Hill. That's just my opinion. And I would rather go a different direction, where we're forming really good bonds with people, where we send one of our kids over there and do a true exchange. And I don't wanna have to pay for a kid to go, a Shepherd Hill kid to go over there, you know, so it is a bigger discussion. I'd love to be a part of it and give my 2 cents. But I think going and charging, I think people are gonna go elsewhere. They're not gonna come to Shepherd Hill. That's my 2 cents.
How do we explore the issue further? To that point of doing a complete exchange of one student to one student, then maybe that's a good avenue to explore.
So we'll,
It's like baseball.
Yeah.
Play
we'll
it every name
continue
later.
in the discussion, but you're going to find out.
I'll find out
about
if
the-
we
yeah.
receive the Chapter
Maybe we
70
can,
funding.
Get that funding. Okay. Consideration to approve additional staffing, so Mr. Destro.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. As you saw in your package on Friday, the district is requesting an additional 2.8 total employees, and I'll break it down as follows. All of this is related to either changes in IEPs or new students moving into the district here towards the end of the year. So we're asking for an additional instructional assistant who would be at Heritage School, and this would be for a student who has been transferred, who has transferred into our district with an IEP, including a one-to-one assistant. And so, you know, it just simply has to be done. We're also requesting, do you want to do them all together? Or do you want to do, okay, all right. We're also requesting an additional instructional assistant at Shepherd Hill Regional High School for a student who's in our Strives program, whose needs have intensified to the point where a one-to-one, the team felt a one-to-one is needed for the safety of the student. It's not a student who's violent, acting out against others. It's more of a keeping him safe for himself situation. So that counts for 2. And then the .2 increase in instructional assistance is very simple. It's a student who has a one-to-one assistant who's currently in preschool, and they go to school 4 days a week. And now when he goes to kindergarten, he'll go to school 5 days a week, so we need the additional .2 support. So it's 2.2 instructional assistants, and the .8, as I said, he currently has a .8, so that employee would simply go to full-time, to 1. And then under speech and language, we are, as a result of team meetings here at the end of the year, We're looking for a 0.6 increase, broken down, first a 0.2 increase for one student at Mason Road School, and then the 0.4 increase would be somebody who we have who is working 3 days a week already at Dudley Middle School, who would now pick up a day at Charlton Middle and a day at Shepherd Hill, and add to the services there. So we're asking for 2.2 instructional assistants and 0.6 speech and language pathologist support across the district due to changing IEPs or new students moving in.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the additional staffing that Mr. Destro has described to us.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion on it?
Just for clarification for the full committee, because we talked about this, how many actual real people will be new? Like someone just increasing their load, how many actual
Yeah.
new positions?
There'll be 2 new people into the district, the 1.0 at Heritage School for the boy who's transferring in,
Mhm.
and the 1.0 additional at Shepherd Hill. All the other services will be added to people who already exist.
Okay.
Not exist, but who work in the,
Right.
they exist and
Right.
they work in the district, which is a great combination.
Wheelby.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Consideration to appoint interim superintendent of schools. So we can start the discussion, or someone can make a motion. It's up to the committee. Who wants to start?
Well, if it's
Mary.
okay, I'll jump in with my impression, and everyone can add to it. For me, the person that stood out the most at the top of the list for me was Dr. Nash. I felt that she had the qualities, the unique mix of qualities that we are looking for the district. She was an instructional leader for 20 years in the classroom as a middle school and high school teacher, project-based learning leader, which is in line with our strategic plan, and that's important. She was involved with educational leadership in the project-based learning, professional development, curriculum alignment, facilities design. She had experience in all facets of education as a teacher, a building level administrator, curriculum director, assistant superintendent, and superintendent. Experience in curriculum framework and accountability changes. She had regional school experience, which is big. Budgeting, working with town administrators, town government, state legislators. She expressed an entry and exit plan that was quite excellent, I thought, and she prioritized engagement with schools and students, and how she schedules her calendar to make sure that she's there for the students and makes her time available for them. And she cited that budgeting was the chief vehicle for making sure that the students have what they need and ensuring their education. I thought that she was a top-notch candidate, and she seemed to have everything that we were looking for this district that was quite unique from the other two.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I'll go along. I thought Dr. Nash was outstanding, but I have a major concern that I didn't find out till yesterday, that she would need a critical shortage waiver to be employed by the district. And to be a critical shortage waiver, you have to attest, I suppose, is the word, that this is the best candidate and that there was no one else, like it's almost the only one that qualified to be this person. And if she did get the critical shortage waiver, that would mean she would get her full pension plus a full comparable superintendent salary, which we haven't decided to offer. And I, in my mind, cannot justify that. And even if the committee thinks she is the best, and I think she was outstanding, I will abstain from voting because I cannot in good conscience think that this is a critical shortage waiver. There were other 25 candidates. If this were the case, I wish I'd known it before we did interviews, because I thought it was not critical. And that's my take on it.
Who else?
I think I'll go next. Mrs. Reed and I both served on the search committee. And I agree that I believe that Dr. Nash was by far the candidate that stood out the most for me. I think I have an advantage because I sat through both rounds of interviews. So in relation to the charge of the search committee and what we put together for our initial priorities for what we were looking for, we obviously prioritized someone not only that had credentials, that was experienced in regional schools, because it is a very different operation. It's a very different budgeting process than a municipal district. We carefully went through, everyone that sat in the committee went through 24 applicants. Were there 24 applicants that had credentials? Yes. But did the 24 applicants that applied have the skill sets for what we need? No. When we weeded through everyone's review of the applications, we came down to a very commonality of candidates. And in reviewing my notes in the minutes from the meeting, we had a solid base of candidates that received the most most viewpoint of the search committee to move forward. And those are the candidates that we moved forward with. I agree with Mrs. Kabbalah that there are things about all the candidates that we talked about that have pros and have cons to them. But when you sit and you look at where we stand as a district and what we need to accomplish moving forward, I agree with what Mrs. Antossi said in relation to skill set. I think I have a different viewpoint on the critical shortage waiver, and I've invested a great deal of time the last 2 days. Once this came to our attention with Mrs. O'Coin's permission as the vice chair, because Mr. Peterzak, as the chair of the committee, lost his authority over the position at 8 o'clock on Monday night when Mrs. Carmignani stepped into the role. So as the vice chair of the committee, I have made numerous phone calls over the last 2 days to discuss this. So I've discussed this issue with Glenn Kuchar from MASC. I've talked with Tom Scott from MASS, and have discussed the issue of the definition of a critical shortage waiver. And they are not just given out, but they are considered. And the justification for applying for a critical waiver, I think, is something that is definitely applicable in this situation. It's applicable based on the fact that due to the timing of our need to fill the role of superintendent, that it is impossible to create a full and comprehensive search that you would do for superintendent. Having been part of the replacement when Mr. Gilrain left and Mr. Destro came in, this is a multi-month process where you post, you have a good deal of time for people to apply for the position, establish your search, review applications, interview candidates, go out and do site visits, turn around and do consideration, come back. It's a multi-month process. We've had, and I counted it, we've been working on this process for 49 days. So from the time that we established a search subcommittee April 25th, posted the position the 27th of April, applications till the 14th, and then turned around and went through multiple meetings. We have not, from sitting down and determining who we were moving forward to doing 2 days of interviews. We did interviews on the 5th and the 6th of June. We did finalist interviews on the 11th. even the process of reference checking, going through and doing that, there's been no time. And I think that that's complete justification to talk about the process. I think the skill set and the reason why Dr. Nash stands out for me is we are sitting at a really critical point in our central office staffing. So out of our 5 central office positions, superintendent, business manager, curriculum director, special education director, and STEAM director, 3 of those 5 positions are all turning over at the same time. So we have a new person coming into the curriculum position, we have a person that is new to the role of special education director, and we will have a new superintendent. I don't have the same level of concern regarding the business manager because Mr. Matthews has been in the position for 3 years and we're fiscally sound. But I have a great concern that we have all new people coming into a role where we have, one, just passed a major override of $3 million that we've made commitments to our communities on what we're going to deliver here for education. We've just completed a revamp of our strategic plan, which is philosophically taking us into a new direction of project-based learning. And I think those are critical skills that if I go through and look at the candidates that were applied, no one else was coming to us with that skill set. I certainly, have been investigating the process of the waiver, and I feel that based on Dr. Nash's skill set, that I think it is something that we should consider.
Can I
Go ahead,
ask a
Kathy.
clarifying question? Elaine, when your committee was made up of parents and community members?
Yes.
Okay, did they do a ranking of who their top 3 were?
We did.
And so what was the rank, are you able to share that ranking with us?
I don't know that we numerically kept those statistics, but within our minutes, we do have rankings, and let me just pull them out. I can turn around and tell you, because I looked at them earlier today. Out of the candidates that we were looking for, we had the candidates that we moved forward, and we didn't rank them 1, 2, 3. Each person turned around and ranked the people that they felt were worthy of moving forward. So that came down to the most number of votes per candidate. And we moved forward the candidates that had 7 or more votes.
Okay, so you don't have the votes that each candidate got?
No.
Like those 3 candidates?
Well, no, we do. We do. But it wasn't the votes weren't based on I'm ranking someone 1, 2, or 3.
Okay.
We're saying that each person turned around and said, these are the people that are on my short list that I feel I would want to move forward. So it wasn't, if someone had, I'm gonna just use arbitrary numbers, if someone had 15 votes, it wasn't because 15 people voted them their number 1 candidate. It was 15 votes for, I think we should move this person forward. So, I think without getting into the nuts and bolts of, waiver or not waiver, I think it's important to, feel who people think is the top candidate, and then we move from there. That's the thing that we need to look at. It may or may not be Dr. Nash. Mrs. Antosi's spoken, I've spoken, but everyone else should have an opportunity to say, and I believe, Kathy, you said that she was also your top candidate.
But I'm abstaining if she is put forward, because what if she doesn't get the waiver and we hire her and the waiver is denied? What happens then? The waiver could be denied, it's not a guarantee.
I think we're preemptively going into something that we don't even know if she's
That's
the
the
top
problem.
candidate. So
No,
I think
well,
it's
yep.
important for
Yep.
people to turn around and say who they feel they liked the best out of the 3 interviews
Well,
that
I'll
came
tell
forward.
you, my choice was Dr. Nash too, but I don't really know how I'm gonna vote yet. I'm gonna listen to everybody because my philosophy was always the same as Kathy on the waiver. And suppose she doesn't get the waiver once we appoint her. But I haven't decided, so I'm not going to make a commitment. I want to hear everyone's. Stephanie?
Mine was Dr. Nash as well. I just felt like she brought the most to what our needs are as a district, whether it be for the next 6 months when we start to look for a new, or whether the whole year. What she brought to the table was what our district needed. And I'm willing to place that bet of going for the waiver if that's something that we can do.
I'll go next. I didn't have negative feelings towards Dr. Nash, but my top candidate was Mr. Himmelberger. I felt that he brought energy to this room. I felt that he came here and told every person here, I thought unwavering, that he wanted to be here. I thought that he said he had some experience in some areas of building renovations that we needed to take a look at in some of our buildings. And I thought that, I thought he was a solid candidate. I thought that he showed that he had experience. He was the candidate that I thought was slightly higher than Dr. Nash, although I would not have been unsatisfied with her. When I received the message, I guess that's probably why it locked my opinion in, given that waiver would be needed for Dr. Nash.
Welcome to the school
committee. Easy night, huh?
I will say I felt that he definitely had the most charisma during the interview process, and I did like what he had to say about the renovations as they are badly needed. You know, my thought is, what is going to be the best choice for our staff, and what's going to make our staff the most comfortable? Because we need to make them feel comfortable to move forward. And, you know, and in our community as well. And I'm hearing, you know, in the 2 days since I've been elected, I've had a barrage of like emails from parents and different people against him. But then I've also had a parent come to me who works with him and couldn't say more nicest things about him. How student focused he is, and how just wonderful he is to work for. So I'm tossed, and I don't know, and I am concerned about the critical needs shortage, and going forward and saying, okay, we want this person, and we've now projected that that's our leading person, so anyone else we hire is now second choice. And how are they gonna lead if they have to be the second choice candidate?
Maybe we can hear Mr. Chaplin. I think, were you on the school committee when?
Yes.
So, how did you feel?
You want me to come up there?
Yeah, no.
You thought you were done with the seat for the night.
I'll come if I get a vote.
Yeah.
What was your question?
Well, were you on the school
I was.
committee, and was he the superintendent at the time?
Yeah,
Okay.
I actually hired him
Oh,
as
okay.
the
You
chairman
did.
of the Blackstone Committee. But it was a longer process. We had a much longer
Yeah, I
time.
know.
When we hired an interim, it was, I agree with Lane, it's very quick. And I did get a waiver after about 6 months. And that, there might have been some other dynamics involved there. But I had to really work really hard to get that waiver. Literally, I didn't get it until November, and we hired him in July. And the first thing they asked was, were there other candidates that you could have hired? You know, and I actually had to send them every resume that we interviewed, and why didn't you hire these other candidates? Why is this one? So there is a process that you have to go through with that you have to convince them. I finally did after a certain amount of time, with the help of some other people that Elaine talked about, Tom Scott and Glenn Kuchar. So it is a process, and you know, our charge as the initial search committee was just to get 3 candidates here. And one of the last things I said to that committee is that I'm glad I'm not on this committee, because they're really good candidates, you know, and each of them bring a different strength. So I don't envy. I'm glad I'm not
Yeah,
at
but
this
you
table.
didn't have the waiver. Could that person work for 3 months into the waiver? What did you do?
That person did work. I don't know how that worked out. He was getting paid. He was getting paid. So I don't know how that. I don't think he worked the prior year.
Oh, so it could-
So there was still some credits or
Money,
something
yeah,
that
got it.
he had. He didn't work the previous 2 years. So he was coming in fresh with that.
Can I add something to the equation?
Can
So-
I go? I can go back.
Go ahead.
Oh, wait,
Thank
can I
you.
ask a clarifying question to him first? So when the state comes in and looks at about the waiver, do you have to make sure that at the school committee meeting, you talk about every single candidate and their pros and cons?
They're not gonna come in. You're gonna have to send them information and your rationale about why you need the waiver. And they're gonna, you do as a committee need to talk about each candidate and then go with your top choice, but they're not gonna ask you that. They're gonna ask you why couldn't you go with someone else and rather than a person with a critical shortage waiver.
Mrs.
Thank you,
Gandhi,
sorry.
I apologize for interrupting you, but it's about the question that you asked. Critical shortage waivers don't just apply to superintendents, it can be any position in education. And I did hire a teacher once on a what's essentially the equivalent of a critical shortage waiver. Well, let me rephrase that. I wanted to, and I had to send in a report of every single person who applied and their credential, who was certified properly, not if they weren't certified properly. And an explanation of why I don't want to go with that particular person. So it does include the people who applied, not just people who were moved forward.
Okay. I just didn't know if we were gonna need to send in a tape or minutes of our meeting to make
I
sure
don't
we
believe so.
talk about one.
But we do have anyway, thanks.
So you would have to send in all 25 applicants' names and so forth?
If they were properly certified, yes. If they were not, then no. So I don't know how many that would be, but.
That's the only thing that's holding me back is the certification, not the certification, the waiver. And
So-
you did ask her about her pension,
Pension,
waiving
right.
the pension.
Which she said that it was a complicated process, so I don't believe that that's
An option for her.
If I can add something to the, just information. So when our committee met for our first meeting, Mrs. Pacheco presented just a note for informational purposes that the administrative council for the school district had discussed the qualities that they would like to see in the interim superintendent of schools. And we took it as information for us to consider as we were going through. There are many points in here that are applicable to all of our candidates, but there is one point here that I want to bring forward that I think was important. And one of the bullet points is a person who has more of an educational background versus a business background. It was very important to our administrative team that we look for an educational leader. And out of the candidates that we looked at, the teaching experience and the relevancy of teaching experience, Dr. Nash far surpassed. I believe Mr. Himmelberger has a year of substitute teaching, and I don't know how many years Dr. Malvey has for teaching, but his teaching went back far, and not to the extent that Dr. Nash had. One of the things that I also have the benefit of having sat through 2 rounds of interviews was something that I thought was extremely compatible to the culture of this district. And the culture of this district is always student and staff centered. We always think about students first. We always think about staff first. And in the first round of interviews, one of the questions that I asked was, how do you see the role of an interim superintendent, and how do you prepare the pathway for the permanent superintendent coming in? And Dr. Nash, out of the candidates we interviewed, had the most unique perspective, because
The other two candidates came down to the very mechanical aspect of preparing the pathway, which is what type of information do you put together, contact information, to-do lists, major issues that are going on. And Dr. Nash's first response was, the first thing that I need to consider is that the staff and the administrators will be experiencing 3 different leaders in the course of a 12 to 14-month period, because they will be experiencing the outgoing superintendent, they're going to be experiencing an interim, and they're going to be experiencing, the incoming superintendent. And that, to me, capsulated how we approach things in Dudley-Charlton, which is first, not the nuts and bolts of doing the business, but first and foremost, we always think student and staff centered and focused. That really resonated with me in that first round of interviews. And there are probably many examples, and as I said, there are benefits and deficiencies in all the candidates, but far and surpassed for the mission that we have going forward based on the strategic plan that we've designed, based on the override that we've turned around and made a commitment to the 2 towns for what we're doing with education. I think that she has the ability to come in and mentor and continue to honor the culture and the tradition of Dudley-Charlton.
Follow up to that. Do you think that the other candidates don't have the same ability to do so? Or to a lesser extent?
I don't feel that those are the strengths. Those didn't come to me as the strengths. I think just in hearing what feedback was given at the discussion of people at the conclusion of our first rounds of interviews, what people feels their strengths were. This is, to me, a situation of priority. And that, to me, is the greatest priority that we have for the district right now. As I said, I'm very comfortable with our fiscal position. I'm very comfortable with our fiscal management. Dr. Malvey seems to go into troubled situations and create fixes for those. We're not a district that needs anything fixed. And Mr. Himmelberger's background in business management is his strength and is his greatest strength, and that's not the area of need that I see right now. What I really see the need for is educational leadership, steering our district into a new direction, which is what we've outlined in the strategic plan. In all honesty, that's where my vote is. If the committee chooses not to go in that direction, I would be more inclined to open the search and go back and go into a second layer of those applicants, or open up the process again and start over. I don't feel that the other 2 candidates are the right fit for the district at this time.
Unless we have 4 votes for another candidate. 4 votes will.
Sure.
But Mr. Petrozak's here, so maybe he can come to the table and help us out.
Good evening.
Good evening. And you were the chair, so you did send us 3 good candidates.
And I thought all along, as Mrs. Rabbit articulated earlier, that was our task, right? We really felt, I was calling them more screenings than interviews, to be honest. The full school committee conducts the actual interviews. And I think the only thing I really don't have much to add at all, other than I thought we did a great job in a short period of time in narrowing what was it, Mrs. Rabbit, 24 down to 3. And I know Mrs. Comaneci, you had the question about rankings and things of that nature, and we did deliberate around, actually, Mrs. Rabbit did a great job of kind of walking you guys through what we did initially, and we wouldn't even call them rankings, but when we did put them up on the board to get the number that we wanted to move forward. We did have to use some sort of a system, so that's what we did. But once we get down to the last three, the ones that we screened, we did those screenings on, I sort of insisted that we didn't rank them from there, because I felt like that wasn't the charge of the committee. The charge of the committee was to bring forth candidates to you all that we felt were viable, and we did that. That's really, I don't have much more, Mrs. O'Coin, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Good to see you.
It's good to be back. Thanks.
You basically, I
And
mean,
Rich,
I
you were
don't
on it.
know what else to.
Do you have anything?
You know, and I guess I'm just going to say this, and I have, you know, I have great understanding and respect for Mrs. Cabala's, you know, feeling on waivers in that, and it's a philosophical one, and I don't disagree with it at all. I also don't feel that the Department of Ed has said, we're not granting any waivers. They are looking for you to be able to justify your position. You know, if we were to take the waiver issue aside, there are 5 people that have turned around and said that Dr. Nash was their top candidate. So if the waiver wasn't an issue, there are 5 people that said Dr. Nash is their top candidate. The waiver is what is creating a little bit of a dilemma here. In my understanding from the people that I've talked to, these, especially on the timing, would be handled expeditiously once the material is received. And my understanding and the people that I've talked to is that, you know, you present it, it's handled expeditiously, we would know. The candidates that we're all looking at are all available. Dr. Malvy's available immediately, and Dr. Nash and Mr. Himmelberger are available as of June 30th. It's not impacting the timing of anyone because no one is in need of giving notice to a position that impacts their ability to start. You know, we're at a disadvantage. We are at a disadvantage of a search committee because this was not a factor that was put in play to us at this point in time. We had a 4th candidate that we were doing an initial interview with that had a scheduling issue the day of the interviews, that we said our time frame is too tight. We can't put another place in to do a meeting. We need to move on. So there were people that were looking forward to interviewing that particular person. So, you know, that's what I said. Do we go back to the drawing board and start over? I mean, we're at it, you know, it's summertime, so schools will be out. If we have to appoint, you know, someone to have authority within our central office staff or administrative staff to hold down the fort temporarily, is that an option? Do we want to rush forward? I don't know. That's just my feeling. As much as Mrs. Cabala has an opinion, I feel really strongly because I've sat through 2 rounds of interviews. And there were 11 different questions than we had with we each had 2 questions, 6 of us. We had, we had 12 questions Monday night. There were 11 questions. So I've sat and listened through 23 questions. I have a little bit of an advantage over the other members of the committee.
Rich, did you want to add anything? You were on the committee.
I think it's pretty clear that you have 3 unique candidates that bring different strengths and weaknesses. I've had the privilege and pleasure to work with the 2 top candidates that you're discussing, and either one would be a fine leader here. It's really an ultimate question for the committee of exactly what you're looking for, because I think you can, once you decide that, you have that in one of the candidates there. So that was very helpful, I'm sure.
Well, it's
I
nice
mean-
to hear that. I mean, I don't think that's a bad comment. And I think that coupled with, I agree with you with Mrs. Rabbit, with when you lay it out so clearly, what the goals have been outlined for this district, it does seem to line a lot with Dr. Nash and her experience level. It's hard to disagree with you when you say it so eloquently.
The benefit of sitting through 2 rounds of interviews.
This is the most important position in the district. And if we think that there's a candidate that by far has the qualities that really expresses what the district is all about, I think we should fight for that. The district is worth it.
So, I'll entertain a motion for someone to, for Dr. Nash, if you feel strongly that you would like to have her.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion on it?
Can I ask another question, not to delay this any longer, but if this is denied, this critical shortage waiver is denied, where does that put us? Do we have to go, I know what your opinion is, but do we have to go back out to a whole search committee? Or we can just come back to a meeting again?
Yeah, and you can
Review
appoint
the
if you
conversation
feel,
again.
I mean, you can make a motion to, for this, your second candidate. I mean, there's
I
no
don't
one
see a reason to do
stopping
that.
you,
No, I
or
know.
we'll have to go out and appoint an interim. We'd have to think about it if it was denied, what to do.
So if I can point to Mr. Chaplin, Blackstone Millville did a first round that didn't go through and then ended up doing a second round, and Mr. Himmelberger came through in the second round of when you were looking for your superintendent, or that's the information in the research that I had done. So it's not unusual. I think we put a package together. I think we put the complete information together. I think we submit it. We look for an expeditious answer, and to put us in a position to make any kind of changes or secondary.
I was on a superintendent search. I was the chairperson. The first candidate didn't work out.
Right.
So we didn't do everything all over again. We looked at our candidates, and if we ranked, and we did rank them though. We had 1 through 5. We went to the second, and it did pass through the school committee. So it's any way we would like to go. If we come up with a candidate, we can just vote a candidate on our own. We did it for Sean Gilrain. We didn't have any search committee. We just voted for him that evening. So it's up to us. So that would be the discussion if this goes through and it doesn't work out.
And I have one follow-up question. Who does this fall to? Whose shoulders does it fall to put this package together? Because Mr. Destro's not with us very many more days.
Right.
And so.
I think because, just opinion, Mrs. O'Coin, because it's a school committee hire and decision,
Right.
then I think that we need to
We
do
have-
that, and if we need to put together a subcommittee of, 2 or 3 of us to work on the documentation in the packet, then I think that's what we've done. I've tried to do as much research as possible to figure this out, and I've spoken to both Glenn Kuchar and Tom Scott, who said that they would, on our behalf, also be willing to advocate with the Commissioner of Education for the case to be made for the critical waiver shortage. They do that as a courtesy to any of their school members. If that's what we choose to do, I think we put the packet together. I'm happy to work on it. I hope that other people are willing to work on it with me. We can look for feedback from those 2 individuals, and then we can submit it and ask for an expeditious answer, so that if we're denied, we know before our next school committee meeting, and then we can act accordingly.
But just it says critical shortage, and really, there isn't a critical shortage.
Well, I don't think DESI's heartless. I don't think they want you to put a person in the role who has the credentials that doesn't have, that in some way, shape, or form isn't related to what the district needs. I don't believe that. Because, you know, if we're gonna, if that's the approach, then, you know, we open the search back up again and we look to see if there's other people that are coming through. I think there's an understanding that most searches that are done, when we did our search the last time, we posted our position in December. We started our process in January. And I believe, you know, we were 3 or 4 months into the process. So I think depending on who we do, you know, who we appoint or put in, I think it behooves the committee to start moving forward for a permanent search in the fall, so that we are starting the process as quickly as possible to post and be moving forward. To even think that you could do a comprehensive search and go in and do site visits at this time of the year when schools are in end-of-year activities, they're involved in graduations and all of that. In May, we would have been trying to go in to do site visits in schools that were doing MCAS testing. So, I mean, I think there's, to Mrs. Antosi's point, I think it's worth having the conversation. And if we're denied, we're denied. We pick up, we move on.
And as far as filling everything out, at least you'll be here until June 30th, and he's a good resource for us.
Absolutely.
And if we need him, we can pay him per diem to help us do it, because I think we should have a superintendent helping us do this. We're not gonna do it on our own.
I'll help you in any way I can.
We have Mr. Destro to help us with that, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we don't have to worry.
Sometimes being a decent writer works against you, you know.
Well, Kathy, do you want to say something?
No, I guess I'm concerned that, is it the committee's feeling that she is truly the only viable candidate? Because it sounds like, then why did the committee put 3 people forward?
Well, that was my
I guess that's
reasoning
like-
before. I said there were 3 good candidates, and then all
Right.
of a sudden, the others, you know, aren't viable now. She's the only one. We can't go to the second one.
Because
You
there,
did-
I mean, there was a person on that committee that couldn't speak more about Mr. Himmelman. So I just don't understand.
So in a typical hiring process, in my viewpoint of having previously been a manager and hired people, I would be doing a much more extensive background check and reference checking on that. I think that there are many things that you can do to look at a candidate that timing, you know, makes difficult. And I've been doing a lot of it over the last couple of days, from going in and looking at school committee minute meetings, looking at budget information, looking at DESE statistical information, how districts have performed under the leadership of a superintendent, to turning around and speaking to multiple people within a community regarding that individual. We're hindered in a lot of that, but, you know, I think that there, you know, to look at that, that information, you know, is out and about. That's just a situation. I think we can all speak to individual candidates of things and feedback that we've gotten, but, you know, I think that I would be more inclined to go back and look at other candidates that got passed up. We really did a comparison of, when we did our search in 2014, there were 4 candidates that were brought forward to the school committee to interview. And we looked to bring 4 candidates to the school committee to interview. Could we have, you know, if we had the luxury of time, you know, maybe we could have dived into people a little bit deeper. We had to work very quickly.
Joe,
Madam Chair,
come
could I
on.
please?
Yes.
Thank you. So I just want to clarify something. We, as a search committee, did bring 3 viable candidates forward to the full school committee. Now, I wasn't able to be here Monday night. However, you know, the full school committee conducts their interviews on Monday night and then arrives at their conclusions for tonight's meeting. That doesn't change the fact that we sent what we thought were 3 viable candidates to you folks on Monday night. Then it gets ferreted down from your interview into your opinions tonight. I just want to, it was a tall order for us as a search committee, and I think I really just want to defend my folks on the search committee. We had a lot of work to do, and I really believe that we did an excellent job in a short period of time.
Oh, you did.
To send you folks three viable candidates. So I think, just to address your comment, they were viable candidates. It's not like we sent 3 for the heck of it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, so I just felt the need to say that. Thank you.
Joe.
Can I ask another question? How is it that we've come to this stage without knowing the critical shortage waiver was going to be necessary?
Right.
Is that something that Dr. Nash maybe
That's
could
what
have
I
shared
had
with
asked.
us?
I asked Elaine that question this morning, and you had said that you sort of knew you
No,
could give the
Dr. Nash
answer.
said that she had communicated that she would need a critical waiver. It wasn't information that was filtered down to the search committee.
Who did she communicate it to?
I thought she.
She mentioned that she had communicated it to you.
After you interviewed her.
But I thought you said, Elaine, she did say she needed
Right.
a waiver.
Not in any of the interview process at all. She stated, and I asked her last night because I wanted to make sure that we were looking at all 3 candidates and not eliminating a candidate because there was an extra step involved. So I contacted her regarding the waiver form. When I read it, there was a statement that said the candidate could waive their pension and just come in at, put their pension on, suspend it for X amount of time. So looking to see whether or not that was a possibility, I made that phone call. But I guess the complication for MTRS is as complicated a process as it is to do anything else, and that isn't an option.
Well, Rich, did you know it? Because I thought did you say something to
Yeah,
that
I
effect?
actually think
At the
screening committees, I thought we did talk about, possibly bringing only 2 candidates forward, and I thought I talked about the fact that there may be an issue with critical waiver.
Well,
Not
And that's what Elaine told me this
definitively
morning.
known, but, a potential.
Recalling everything that happened, I am going to say, when we wrapped up our candidates, 2 things were brought to attention. One was Himbenberger was not retired, and what his monetary salary might look like. And the other thing was brought up, that we might need a waiver for her. And that was after we had chosen our 3 candidates to come forward with, as we wrapped up our discussion. So that being said, when you're wrapping up after being what we were whirlwind to begin with, we came together, we went through those 24 candidates, we went with who had certification as either a super or an assistant super, and that's how we first narrowed everybody down, because this is a very critical, we had to get somebody, we can't catch anybody up. So that being said, when we chose these 4, unfortunately, and I mean, I've got my notes on who what we said when we did put it up on the board and what their strengths were. And unfortunately, Garrick, she had a lot of the strengths, but she wasn't able to come. So, I mean, maybe this would be a totally different conversation, but going through what Elaine said, we sat through the interview process as like the screening board, and then we sat here and writing all these notes. You kind of go with what you think the district needs, and that's why I feel like Nash is what the district needs right now. And I know like it's going to be difficult, but I just think if we had Garrick, we wouldn't be sitting here. I mean, I know like they are 3 viable candidates, but when you look at everything, and I mean everything, and you go through your notes and you just sit there and you think where we're going as a district, this is why, and I don't want to open up the whole thing again, but at the same time, I don't want to shortchange us. And
But you
that's
didn't think of the need to let us know before we interview.
because we didn't
This
know.
information, I mean, it's one thing to say that you're gonna need a waiver. It's another thing to turn around and know what applying for a waiver involves.
But we knew.
We
I
didn't
would
know what
know.
applying for a waiver involved.
It
That
does
information
involve a
didn't come
lot,
to any of
yeah.
us until yesterday. And then based on that information yesterday and knowing that what a process of a waiver is, that's when I started making phone calls to understand what it would involve in doing. So Mr. Matthew did turn around and say, Dr. Nash might be a waiver, but we didn't know that, you know, DESI has the criteria, they have a document that needs to be put, and all of this justification that needs to be made. That wasn't part of the discussion. Maybe the screening committee would have thought differently if they knew that that was going to be part and parcel of the issue, and we might have brought you a different pool of candidates.
Okay, Elaine, I'm gonna vote for her. I'm really betraying my belief because I really don't think it's right. But you've got 4 votes, so let's vote on
Can I
it.
ask you one last question?
Go ahead.
You've mentioned another candidate that sounds viable on paper. Is there, I know there's a motion on the table, so I can't change that motion, we'll have
No,
to figure
you
that out.
can still
But I-
discuss and
but-
change our
But do we
minds.
have the option to interview this other candidate and see where we stand before we make a vote right now? I get that that messes with our timelines again, but if you thought she was viable, and you guys did a great job in a short amount of time, and everybody on your committee thought she was viable, why wouldn't we take another week to figure out if she is a fit for us?
I mean, I don't think it would be able to go through the screening committee, but I think it would be something that we could do as a school committee.
Did she not go through this?
She couldn't.
the screening?
She couldn't make the first,
So
she
didn't go
was
through
the
screening
first
committee.
interview that we had scheduled. I believe Sandy, it was the first interview we had scheduled on Tuesday. She called that morning, she called Sandy and said that she couldn't make it. We offered her an alternative that she couldn't make. We, in all fairness to the committee who worked very hard in a very short period of time, we were doing 2 interviews on Tuesday. We were scheduled for 2 interviews on Wednesday. We needed to leave time to turn around to discuss the candidates. We needed to be able to notify on Wednesday night. We need to make a decision to notify Mrs. O'Coin on Thursday morning so that we could get it publicized to meet our open meeting notification for finalist interviews on Monday. So there was not an option to put her anywhere else.
No, I understand that, I'm just saying.
So, so to your point, if you're going to open it up for one, then you might go back and you know, maybe we open it up to more. I don't know, because, you know, as I said, everybody had pros and cons. We picked a variety of candidates that had strengths in different areas. And the 4th candidate's strength was that she was a psychologist that had experience in social emotional, which we also knew was has been a long conversation and a critical need that we were talking about, our addition of adjustment counselors and all of that. But ultimately, everybody's strengths get measured as to how many things that somebody can hit, how many various things that they can hit, and it's a question of, am I checking off 1 or 2 boxes, or am I checking off a lot of boxes?
Now, Kathy, what do you think? Do you think we should go back
I
and interview?
told you.
No,
No,
I know
no,
you're
there's a motion on the table. If
I
she
know
has-
it, but
why
we're
don't we take the
discussing,
vote?
we can take the motion back if
take the
we
vote.
think we
We'll take the vote.
agree to, you want to take the vote?
Can I?
If we want to interview another person that probably doesn't need a waiver, that's what everybody's, you know.
I think what I'm hearing, though, is if we open it up to that, then we should probably expand it again to other viable candidates potentially. And do we really want to do that, and do we have time for that?
But you had 4 people that you brought forward to that, your screening committee.
Mhm.
So all I'm saying is give that other person that was well qualified in your opinion a chance. All I'm suggesting, I guess I'm not even saying that, I'm just saying that isn't that something we should consider?
I don't know how to respond to that. I'm gonna just kind of look at Mrs. O'Coin, because the only option that we would have, and I'm guessing, is to schedule a special school committee meeting to come in to interview one person.
Yes, we'll have to do that.
To, again, you know,
But that wouldn't be a problem to schedule
I feel
know what
strongly if you want to open up for one, then we need to open up for more than one.
I just suggest there's a motion on the floor. If you
I
feel we
know.
should reopen it, let's take the vote, and some people might not vote, but if she passes, it's a moot point. I would take a vote. I'm gonna move the question for a vote.
Okay, we'll take a vote. Okay? All in favor
Of,
of your vote, your.
for Dr. Nash?
Right.
Okay, I didn't know if we were voting
No,
on
no,
James.
There was a
no,
motion
'cause
already
we
on
got
the table,
motion.
so-
You missed, I think
It's
Mary
late.
made the motion, right? Okay, we're gonna have one abstaining and 2 against.
Only because I think we should open it up. It's not against her, it's just because I think we should open it up.
Okay, we're gonna try for the waiver. If we don't get it, we're going to have to, this is my feeling. I think we'll appoint maybe an interim in-house that we have. We'll have someone, we'll ask someone that's qualified. And then we'll have to search for a new superintendent.
I would just like to clarify my abstention vote, and I would like it in the minutes. I am not voting against Dr. Nash. I thought she was the best candidate. I'm abstaining because I cannot, in true conscience, think we need a critical waiver shortage, and that she will be receiving a full pension, which is 80% of a high salary, plus the full salary of a superintendent, and I just cannot justify that to myself.
I would
And
concur.
that
Can
was
you put
always
mine
my
as
belief,
abstention?
but I'm going to, we're gonna try for the waiver. And
Mrs. Cameron, I wanted to say something.
So-
when she wanted to say.
Go ahead,
Okay,
Kathy.
you just want to-
She put me.
And is, Joe probably will call, I don't know if it's too late to call.
Mrs. O'Connor, could we just redo the vote, because can we just take the vote again?
Okay, we'll take the vote
Take the
again.
vote again, please, okay?
Okay,
Just so it gets on the minutes correctly.
so all in favor of the vote was Stephanie, Elaine, Mary, and myself. You abstained, and then
Abstain.
you abstained and you abstained,
Three
okay.
abstentions.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Not against it.
I thought you raised your hand for,
I wouldn't want it to go
I don't want to think
Right.
against her.
to the
Yeah.
state as that we were
That's
against
good.
her.
Yeah. And she did, and Jamie, you did bring up a good point, but I already committed when I said I was going to
I'm
vote,
not,
so.
you are free to have whatever opinion you
No,
want.
no,
I never
but
take offense.
that was my opinion. I had told Kathy, I knew her philosophy, and it was mine, and I did go against it, so we'll see.
You're going to call it tonight or wait till tomorrow morning?
Oh, yeah. Do you want to call her tonight? I
No.
think she'd be waiting
You
still.
said you were going to call it tonight, but
Yeah.
it's pretty late to call all of them.
I agree.
I would call the other, I would call her tonight, because I know if I'm up for a position, I'm gonna stay up until 1 o'clock in the morning. Right, Mary? But, the other 2 you could call tomorrow.
You want me to do the calls?
Yeah, you could call the other 2. Joe, do you, we'll ask him, seeing
Put it on
he's,
for Joe.
no, seeing you are the chair, do you wanna call, Dr. Nash and tell her that she's been hired this evening? We had told them, we didn't think it was gonna go this late.
Right.
Mrs. O'Coin, if I may, I have her cell phone number right in my phone, and she'll answer, not to brag, but she'll answer when she sees my name come on.
Oh, okay.
I don't think I've ever said that
Thank you,
before.
sir. Thank you, sir.
And then he can give her the news, because he was on the
And
chair.
we'll just have Joe call the people who didn't
That's right,
get
you
it.
got the other
I'll
two,
call
Joe.
them. We'll
You
call
got
them
the two
tomorrow
more.
if that's what you want us to do.
Am I even still like on the
Joe,
clock
go.
here?
Well, wait a minute, no, Joe's.
The vice
gonna-
chair, though, is still in.
No, but you were the chair, and you're here this evening. I know, I called the superintendent when I was the chair. You were the chair of the screening committee. So you can make the telephone call.
I'm not sure he can authorize a job.
That's right.
He's not on the school
Okay, well then I'll do it. Or Elaine, as the vice chair, Elaine? It's up to
You want
you.
to finish the agenda first? It's
Yeah,
only
let's
one
get-
more
Okay.
quick thing.
Let's go through a break, okay, we'll
Because,
do it.
it affects-
And I'll make the call, and you've got her.
I'll get her, if you want, I'll just say, hello, this is the chair of the school
Okay.
committee.
Good job, Joe.
Good job. Okay, we have one more item. Consideration of request for 1-year leave of absence.
Thank you, Mrs. O'Coin. So I actually have two
Two.
requests now. As I had said in the package, I might have an extra one, and they're both related to one another. So the first request is for Barbara Matarosian, who is taking on the 1-year interim curriculum director position, so we can hold her English position at Shepherd Hill.
Make a motion, we accept her 1-year leave of absence.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you. And the second is for Kristen Aganis, who's currently a 7th grade English teacher at Charlton Middle, who's interested in high school and wants to take Barbara's position for the year. And so she's requesting a leave of absence for her position at Charlton Middle, which would now be the 1-year extended sub-position.
Okay, a motion for that leave of absence? Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I don't want to be a stickler, but she's going to have to take a pay cut. If she's at extended employment, she's going to have to be put in a step. She's going to take a big pay cut.
Well, my understanding is that she wouldn't be the sub.
But it's an
If she
extended one.
has a leave of absence from her position at Charlton Middle and takes the job at Shepherd Hill which is potentially forever, but it could be 1 year if Barbara goes back to it the year after. Now, my understanding is the 1-year sub position is now the Charlton Middle School position.
I don't think that works that way. she is being hired to replace an extended employment substitute. I don't think she can get her salary. I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck,
No,
but
no,
I think
it's fair. I mean-
contract-wise, I don't think she's taking an extended employment substitute position. She's not taking a real position. That's not an advertised opening, like an English teacher. I think you should
I
check
think
into that.
Kathy's
I'll look
right
into
there.
it, but I think
she's gonna lose
we
the
can
pay.
transfer her into that, but we'll look into it and
I
I'll
think
bring
you
it back on the 27th.
But
Oh,
tell
well,
that.
maybe you can transfer in.
I don't think so.
I don't know.
It's a 1-year position. It's as if the girl went on a maternity leave. It's the same thing.
We are currently paying someone on full teacher salary
Yeah.
in a 1-year position.
I
But maybe-
think you
but
can,
maybe
but
they-
I'll get all the parameters down and bring it back to you for the 27th.
my motion then?
Well, I make it subject to checking it or something.
That's fair.
Subject to checking the pay situation.
Okay? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
And Mrs. O'Coin, Sandy passed out a paper earlier tonight, which we had one more requested, and it's really quick, I promise. I have a first-time facilities use request from Tough Mudder Incorporated.
Oh, I saw that.
They're having an event at 508 International, and they want to use the Charlton Middle School parking lot on June 23rd, which I believe is a Saturday, just for overflow parking in case they need it. And I
Make a
recommend
motion, we
approval.
accept it. Second.
Discussion, all in favor? Motion carries, it's unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next meeting date, school committee meeting. Wednesday, June 27th, that's going to be at the Charlton Middle School at 7 PM. Budget and Finance Subcommittee to be announced. Approval of the warrant. We do have warrants this evening to be signed. I think we're going to change this to the beginning of the warrant to just let everyone know that we have one, but you can sign it anytime you want, beginning or end. Future agenda items, budget, retiree recognitions. Anybody else want to add something?
Can we schedule the warrant training now that we have our 2 new school committee members that we postponed?
Okay.
So if we can skip. Okay.
What else? Anything else?
I would just
Yeah.
throw out there that the executive session, there's 2 very quick items that can wait if we want to wait until the 27th, if the committee chooses, because it's so late.
Okay.
It's not, neither is urgent.
All right. Okay.
No big deal at all.
Now we're going into executive session. Or you
I was
wanna
just saying, is
postpone it?
we can table it because neither is
Do you
really
want to
that time.
table it? I think we should table
They're
it.
not time sensitive.
Yeah.
Want to keep going?
I would keep
At
going.
midnight,
We
like
used
the
to
old
be
days.
like the old
You ladies
days.
don't know what it's like in the old
The
days.
3 of us started at 5.
Everybody
Yeah.
says 5.
I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor? We're adjourned.